Welcome to the show. In this episode we have Sandeep Singh and Haseeb Ibrahim, the founders of MyFlag, an international technology startup based in Scotland. They recently won Young Entrepreneurs of the Year in the Scottish, Asian and Business Awards. They're really inspiring guys, not afraid of hard work, and are full of determination. Starting a business is hard. Starting a hardware company in Scotland is really hard. Sonny and Haseeb have a very harrowing but uplifting story about battling outside forces, from patent and intellectual property issues to hardware and production issues. They're a real example of entrepreneurship, grit and determination. Hope you enjoy the show. Sonny, Haseeb, thanks for coming on. Welcome to the show. So MyFlag, tell us a little bit about your journey, who you two are, what your role is, and where you are today.
It's been quite a long journey, I'd say, and it didn't all start off with MyFlag. MyFlag is probably one of the easiest and most simplest ideas we've created, and like most entrepreneurs, we started our journey with a very grandiose idea.
Yeah. What was the initial idea that you had?
It was a new type of LED sign, shops, cafes, things like that. But I guess, like Haseeb said, it was starting off as something a bit too grand, and achieving that or taking that to market, should we say, was more difficult than we thought, and that's what led us to MyFlag.
Yeah.
Which is a simpler version of our technology, isn't it?
MyFlag really is an MVP of the technology.
Okay.
And it's a way of making money, so we can plough the funds and resources into the R&D to create the bigger and better ideas.
Okay.
As we started to build it, we started to see the potential in the market.
Yeah.
And we developed that idea a little bit further. So I think the MyFlag journey is in its early days, but there's still a few more years ahead of it before we even get on to what we initially planned to start off with.
Yeah.
So you started with a product idea that was really difficult to get money together for and get it launched.
Yeah.
You developed the product as MyFlag to make money, but then realised that it was a good product in itself. And then that became the product.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's a good way of getting there, I guess.
I mean, we did initially get traction with the idea. We got proof of concept. I took it over to India to meet some companies. They were interested, so we really got excited then. But I guess our excitement was dampened when we realised that, to take it to full production, it was going to need a lot more resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'd already ploughed enough resources into it. We had a UK granted patent. We were going for worldwide coverage. We'd spent a couple of years and tens of thousands building a prototype.
What was that told you that it was too expensive? Was it trying to?
It was the customer feedback. We built our prototype. We took it round to 10 different types of businesses, 100 different individual businesses, and we showed them it. And we asked them, is this product going to improve your shop's footfall? And 89% of businesses said yes, and the idea was validated.
Yeah.
But there were some things that needed to be optimized about the product.
I guess when it comes to electronic engineering, you have an idea in your head. That's all handy, that's all great, but then when you meet with the engineer and then we meet with the software guy, and you say, we want this and we want it to do this and that, and then they turn around and go, okay, well, it's not going to be as easy as you guys think.
Yeah, I think the famous term is, we want you to just do that.
Yeah, we hear that quite a lot. Like, So you had the original idea, and who came up with the idea, or where did the product originate from?
Okay, so we need to wind the clock back even further.
Yeah.
Even further now, because our journey really starts 7 years ago, something like that.
7-8 years ago. Yep.
It was Sandeep's father. he was the technical mind behind all the technology.
Yeah.
He's the one who coined the idea, and the idea was
even
LED manipulation, and it wasn't just for signage. This was for arcade gaming, actually.
Initially, in short, my father got made redundant from Motorola, and he's quite good of electronics and things. And so we started playing with LEDs. So we made a board this size, put LEDs on it, and put some really cool arcade-style games. That led him to realise, wait a second, I can manipulate these, signage and other things. So
yeah, I mean, this was a good while back. This was before they used LEDs in the sidelines of football games. Before it started to take over billboards. This was just as the blue LED. The Nobel Peace Prize winning blue LED had emerged.
Yeah.
So it still was very expensive technology at the time.
Prior to that, you had a limited range of LEDs, just the way LEDs were sort of invented around the world. So red came first and so forth. The key component, as Haseeb's mentioned, was the blue one, and that would give you the full colour scale. So when my father realised, that's what led him to, this LED idea, games board.
So I think he'd been working on it for like maybe 8 or 10 years. Before he started to see a commercial path for it. That's when I came on board.
Yes.
And then he had
How did
this.
you come on board?
I, at the time, me and Sandy were friends. We met up through I was a DJ through event nights and whatnot, and Sandy met me through that community and was very good at what I did and very customer focused. And I think that's a dynamic the business needed at the time, because Baude, technically brilliant, he was a true innovator. But technically brilliant people aren't very great with people. So I brought that to the table. But being a DJ and doing a bit of music production and stuff, I had my own creative elements. And the product we decided to build when I was brought onto the team was like a LED Etch-a-Sketch.
So it evolved from your games board and manipulating LEDs, and then this Etch-a-Sketch. It was almost a tool to give people freedom of LEDs.
Yeah, but it's designed for like a hobbyist sort of toy market.
And it happened to be that this tool, if you could call it that. You could be a hobbyist. You could put it up in your shop window as a sign because you could manipulate the LEDs. So there was a natural progression there.
It could have grown. It could have grown to that, but it was quite a playful thing. You could knock up a.
So when you say manipulate the LEDs, do you mean like you could program each individual LED of the next, or?
Yes. So I don't want to go too technical here, guys, but the way LEDs work is each LED has to be individually addressed. So it sounds easy, you can address this, but it's varying voltages to LEDs to create different brightness and colours, and that all has to be done in synchrony with other LEDs. So suddenly you've got a whole map of LEDs that need quite a bit of sophistication. And I guess he simplified that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
I guess he simplified that.
Yeah. So we built this LED Etch-a-Sketch. It came in 3 different sizes, and the electronics, the software was all done. Really, we just needed to put a case on it, and we could have gone to market at this point. Sadly, Sandeep's father had a heart attack and passed away.
It was sudden, so I mean, in short, that left us with great idea, great product. Unfortunately, the mastermind wasn't there anymore, and I guess where our journey began, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we lost our technical expert. Sandeep lost his father, which was...
That must have been tough to take on that role, like with him not being there, and also deal with the loss of that with your father. That must have been a a horrific thing to have to deal with.
Yeah. And I personally feel that sort of thing can make or break a man.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely made Sandeep.
Yeah, changed me for
the better.
For the better, as unfortunate as it was, but I guess I grew up. You know, I guess you have to grow up quickly. And
That's what they say, like, you can't be your own man until your father passes. That's like a common trait. Like my dad said that to me all the time, you know. So it's like you've got to take that mantle and you've got to be, you've got to step into those shoes essentially.
And the difficulty with that is you go from not knowing in a sense, because my father was pushing it with a CBA on board, to suddenly like front seat.
Yeah.
You know, and to be honest, I didn't know what we were going to do or where we were going to go.
But you know, there was a period of mourning, and then Sandeep phoned me up one day and he said, "I still want to do this," and I was up for it. And between me, him, the development company we were using to produce the prototypes, Sandeep's father's meticulous note keeping, we had it between us to take the project onwards. But there was a problem. We didn't share the belief in the product that we had, the LED Etch-a-Sketch.
Okay.
We, as most ambitious entrepreneurs, wanted to build something that had a mass market appeal.
Yeah.
And that's where we started to build the LED sign, not knowing the product that we had was gold.
Yeah.
Because 3 or 4 years later, I saw the exact same product come on Kickstarter.
Yep.
It was a guy in front of a camera in his living room shooting it, no PR team, no money gone into production. 150 grand he raised in this Kickstarter campaign.
And I'm watching this guy thinking, did my dad sold some of it going to this guy? You know, how's he coming up with
What was
this?
the guy's product? Was it an Etch-a-Sketch?
It was the only thing different about it. Well, it didn't have the being able to draw it on the device. It was like you uploaded it from an Android device.
I guess the difference was...
It was the same size though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's the exact same size.
Either the programmability is external, which means the product's not standalone, and in the technology world that means self-contained.
Yeah.
So that's what his was. Ours was the ability to create onboard. So Hal had all the power, the process, all that on board to produce the imagery. So
Personally, I feel technology, the advancement of technology is ruining technology.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll feel my pain here when you're loading up a game on PlayStation 4 and you need to download 3 updates. And it's been like 25 minutes before
I'll come back next week.
where you're playing. So
It's the worst.
yeah, this was standalone, so it's plug and play, you know.
yeah.
That must have been a bit of a motherfucker.
Yeah, we didn't realise this product had gone live until a few years later. We didn't understand. We didn't know about the power of Kickstarter at the time.
Yeah. I don't think many people in the UK did.
No.
I think it seemed like one of those things that was coming out of America, and it was a very American thing.
Yeah.
Is what the impression I had of it. Because I would never have invested in anything on Kickstarter because I'd have assumed that it was for the American market. It wasn't for, like when they say you get whatever it is you're buying. I'd been like, well, no,
They're not gonna
I'm
post
not
that
getting
here.
it. They're not shipping it to Scotland. That's not happening.
But I think that was the golden era of Kickstarter when people were plowing money into anything, and that's where the Smoke and Mirrors campaign resulted as a follow of that. And when people saw that people were putting money into anything, here let's knock up a vehicle that drives over buses and put £1 million into a solar panel roadways.
Yeah.
It's funny because it is a promising concept, like the idea of it, Kickstarter, for like even particularly companies like yours, tech companies, where you might not have the money for the hardware, you just have the idea and you can present that concept to people and see if they buy into it.
Yes.
And then you can get the money to be able to prototype it at least and then take it to that next level. But it was bastardized by people taking advantage of the system.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, there's also, I mean, patents. We talk about patents. So this is another piece of the story which should be told, and I think it's a good lesson for other entrepreneurs and people out there, and it ties in with Kickstarter too.
Oh yeah.
Because you have an idea and you think, should I release this to the world and not take a patent? Because once you release it on Kickstarter, it's out there. But our stories with patents was a little bit different, wasn't it?
Yeah, I have a very high dislike of patents and stuff, and it's because it was because of patents our R&D budget completely dried up.
Yeah.
I think we spent probably the same amount we spent on R&D on patent protection,
Probably more.
and it's
From what I know, we follow the tech scene quite closely because we're interested in startups and their journeys, and the common thread is usually get to market first.
Yes.
Get to market first, make a big splash, be the name that everyone associates with that particular product if your product's unique enough.
Yes.
And then you don't need to really worry about protecting your IP,
Yes.
because companies like the people that manufacture in Shenzhen, they don't have the same enforcement of law over your patent. So you might have a patent for Europe, India, Africa, wherever in Western Hemisphere, but if you take it to be manufactured in China, which is what a lot of people do, the Chinese don't have the same thought process behind IP. So that product's getting copied.
And it's the culture as well, so when we say patents, we think protection, I want to keep it, I want to monetize everything.
Yeah.
But if you go to China, it's not just the way of thinking, it's the culture around technology. So their thinking is, if you've got something groundbreaking that can help people or it can make a process easier or whatever, why not let the world...
why not let us make it better for you?
Why not make it accessible to everyone?
Which is appealing to me, in a sense, and it made me question: are patents holding back technology? The advancement of civilization?
I think it's undoubtedly yes. You look at technology and software, and a lot of software is open source, which doesn't mean free. It just means if you want to copy and modify, you're free to do that.
Yes.
And the difference between having a good design and then executing it properly is completely different to just... So you've seen nowadays with smartphones. Smartphones are a good example of this, because the iPhone was just in 2007 and probably up to 2012 was just shit hot compared to absolutely everything else. But the IP got stolen, ripped off and jacked by Samsung, and then over the following years Samsung became on a par, but they were able to modify on the technology that they'd taken from Apple. But because Apple had did it so well, they still have such a cult following. You either have an Android phone, which could be one of 1,000, or you have an iPhone, because they did it the best. And they've spent so much money in litigating patents, but it hasn't stopped people from copying the IP or taking the ideas that they come up with, or vice versa. So there's a lot of borrowing going on. So new iPhones have Samsung screens, for example, and new Android phones use the same camera manufacturers that iPhone uses. Exactly. I'm in the camp of patents are a waste of money. If your product's good and you can make a big enough marketing splash, you don't need to protect your IP.
I was watching or read. I say that a lot because I forget what one it was.
It was YouTube or in a book,
in
a novel.
I either took that information by reading it, or it was told to me from a nice little made video. But it was talking about the problem with patents in hardware is dwarfed by the problems in patents with software. That's a huge issue now, because patents are designed for the idea that something was or it wasn't. It was really, it doesn't make it a clean cut thing, and the issue that we're talking about with copying is still rife, but it doesn't exist in the same sphere as for software patents. So there's people out there now that are just patenting everything. So I think I can't remember what it was, but it's simple. It was a simple one, like the way that a phone's unlocked, but somebody had patented that gesture for something else that was totally unrelated to that product, but then they could claim IP on that gesture for a product that was released using the gesture that wasn't even close to the product that it was copied from, or that it was patented with.
It's a perfect example of.
But it destroys the company.
Yeah.
Because they get sued. It's like, no, that's ours. It's like, well, it's nothing related to what you have, but that's ours.
Yep.
It's a wild problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened to you?
Oh well.
How long have you got, boys?
No,
So-
we're happy to talk this through with you.
I mean,
It's an interesting story, yeah.
You mentioned earlier on, how did the Haseeb come on board, and that intertwines into this patent story as well.
Yeah.
So my father was making this idea. It's going on. It's developing. It's innovating, and he needed some money. So he approached a friend. The role was investment and admin work, taking care of emails, so my father could concentrate on the idea. So with patents, on a patent application, you have the inventors, but then you have proprietors. So you could be the inventor. For example, I work for MyFlag company. I come up with the invention. But the proprietors, as in the people who can use the patent, could be MyFlag and me. So there's a difference between the inventor and the proprietor.
Yeah.
This individual had put his name on the application as a proprietor. And once these things are sort of in motion, it's very hard to...
No, I thought it was he put himself down as an inventor and not a proprietor.
And not a proprietor.
And like on par with your dad.
my father.
I mean, this guy is a taxi driver that used to drink in the pub with Baldave. And he said, I want to invest. He put in the cost to get the UK patent granted.
That's right.
And put himself down as as an inventor. And top of your father's name.
Yeah.
That's not really bugged your father.
Yeah.
I remember him talking about this. And then after your father passed away, we've got this patent, but we've got this guy. It's a co-inventor, and we can't license the technology to anyone without his signature, and this guy is so unreasonable. So we had a problem. We had a
Big
patent,
problem.
but we had a problem.
So this is still early days, and I'm assuming he's saying, right, okay, so if this goes global, I want 90% of your profits.
Well,
In the weeks after Sandeep's father passed, he'd come to Sandeep's door and said, I will give you this patent back, but you need to pay me a 7-figure sum. And this is before we had a
few
product.
weeks.
It's before we had a product.
And you say, right, we'll show your bank account, and you can divide that zero however you want.
But even to begin from that stance,
Wait. Weeks after your father passed, he came to your door,
Yeah.
and did you punch him in the face? We'll
I-
cut that bit out.
aggressively pushed him out the door, should we say? I might get the details wrong. It's a very emotional time for me, but he probably knows the finer details of it. But
Yeah, let me help you out.
yeah.
So we had this guy down as a co-inventor. We couldn't license the technology. The only way we could utilize the patent is basically creating a product ourselves and licensing it as a sole trader, which is very different from when you're coming to negotiate investors and bringing other companies.
It gets very convoluted,
makes
complex,
you undesirable.
Yeah.
So there was only really one option. It was, one way we are forced to make the product ourselves, so we are forced to learn about hardware design and whatnot, which I guess was a blessing.
Yes,
in
we learned.
disguise,
Yep.
because we went down this road of education, and then on the other side, we had to take him to court.
Yeah.
And this is after we've already ploughed a lot of money into patent protection. Now we're going patent litigation.
And so we were at a crossroads, like Haseeb said, and one was the litigation, which, from an emotional and personal perspective, that was something I was going to do irrespective of what happened with the product. That was more
It's a
of
legacy,
a legacy thing,
Legacy,
So I took that path almost myself. You know, Seb was always there for support in the background, but in terms of dealing with the court case, that was pretty much learning about patent law, hiring a patent attorney, and just going for it. Really.
I think the short of it, I know we've got a lot of ground to cover, but the short of it was it went to court. We lost.
Fucking hell.
Officially
We lost, but
officially we lost.
So what was the case? What was it you were trying to do? Try to remove him as a inventor and say that your father was the sole inventor?
I employed a bit of, what should I say, strategy. So we knew we couldn't get him off because my father was passed away and he was a key witness. So it was a nigh impossible task for me to argue for my father when the other remaining patent holder was still alive and could give his own testimony. So I knew that if we were going to lose, that I would appeal and corner him to the point where he would stress enough and wouldn't have the financial resources to keep going, and that's what made him crumble.
Right. Because you got to fight it if you're gonna.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had to take on a bit of debt to do that, which I'm still paying.
Worth it. Fuck him.
You know.
So the legacy's intact. You know.
Yeah.
So you in court represented. You had the means, the knowledge, the capability to take this technology forward, and you could utilize it as a sole trader. He didn't have any know-how in this, so he couldn't do jack with it.
He just wanted the money.
Yeah. So then what happened was they got the official decision. Afterwards, we contacted him via letter and said to him, right, you can't do anything with the technology. Give us it back for the original sum that you paid to get it.
We're going to appeal.
We're going to appeal. He said, okay, I'll take the money back and I'll give you the...
I wish he'd done that before the court case though, because it saved me a lot.
So
that's
unofficially, we won.
You expect that patent litigation would happen with a big company, you know, like David and Goliath.
Yes.
Not with a goddamn taxi driver who had nothing to do with the technology himself, who just fudged the paperwork like a dickhead.
I can imagine that this was when they had this discussion, your father and this guy, that it was probably quite flippant. You know, it was like, I'll give you a couple of £100 and you can, you know, and then as soon as it has legs or has potential, then suddenly the snakes come out and start trying to dig their fangs into an idea before it's even taken off.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you fought it and that you got the right outcome.
It was the right thing to do, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, just a little tale of his personality, of how money orientated he was. Before we even had the concept, before even the concept was made, as in a bare bones with wires coming out and everything, he turned around to my father and came up with a wish list. What this wish list had on it was 2 new cars, computers, an office, and my father turned around and went, we're not even begun this journey, and you wanna, your business plan is let's get equipment, and so but my father didn't really see that he was too trusting.
Generally, people have a very obtuse view of patents, don't they? They think instantly if you've got a patent, you've got something that can be sold for 7 figures immediately.
Yeah.
It's far from the truth.
Idea and execution.
That's
You'll know about that,
Because it's not very expensive to file. Oh, it depends on how many categories, isn't it? But it's not expensive to file a patent, because I've done that I used to have a technology business where I filed a patent, filed IP for the design as well.
Design rights.
Yeah, design rights and brand identity rights. It was maybe under £1,000.
Sure.
But I think and I only did it in one category and one on the continent, so it was only Europe that I had the patent for, or Britain, sorry, had the patent for, not anywhere else in Europe or anywhere else. But had you at this point filed in other regions as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's rejections as well. So if the patent,
you have to
that's where the money starts building up.
And it's not always someone technically brilliant is reviewing it either.
Yes.
No. Yeah.
So they're coming back with really daft replies, and you're paying for this.
Yeah.
So it's a frustrating process. I think the game's rigged. That's my pessimistic.
It's in my mind. I know too many lawyers to say this, but the only reason you need lawyers is because lawyers make the requirement to have lawyers because they make the documentation for them taking you to court that difficult that you need them to decipher it for you. It's a rigged game. You've not got it's not a. Oh, I'll just do this myself.
It's actually quite interesting. Like, you're filing a technical patent. How is a patent lawyer going to understand the tech? How are they going to decipher between two technologies that look similar that aren't the same?
Yes.
And how are they going to say this is unique enough or this doesn't infringe on somebody else's patent?
Yes.
And that, as Matt's saying, they're just looking at the clock and looking at the documents, going, I guess they're similar. If I send it back, they might file it again. I have to
double my fee.
Yeah, double my fee.
I mean, when my father first approached the patent attorney to file the patent, the guy couldn't understand it. So even the patent attorney filing it for him,
right?
He just couldn't. So he went to a second firm. They couldn't understand it. Went to a third firm, and the guy who we're still with, was brilliant. Got it straight away. Got the claims right. Filed it, and we got it.
So you have to imagine what's going on at the time. This is like 2-year period in our life. We're going through litigation court. We're going through patent protection, and we're going through R&D to build a product.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that, we had a product. We got the decision in the litigation court, and the product we put it out into the market. And we were very naive at the time. We were, as most new entrepreneurs are. We learned that you can't just build one prototype and be ready for market. Look at Dyson, for example. How many people?
I think Dyson was like 4,000, 5,000 till he got it perfect.
I don't know who's
Till it was
funding
the one,
that guy. We didn't have that kind of money to work with. But we realized that after we needed probably another 6 figures close to bring this idea we had to market. And that's the point we decided, pump the brakes, let's build something cheaper.
And that point, it was interesting, that point, because it actually came off the back of a high. So I took this initial prototype, like Haseeb said, it was the first one, and took it to India, and we got New Delhi Airport who were willing to trial it. India's largest coffee shop chain, willing to trial it in 50 stores. So that was great. I'm coming back from India, like, Haseeb.
This is the panel, the first panel that you had. Right, and you've got people signed on to say, right, let's do this thing.
Yeah. There was a lot of interest.
That's a big.
Even
those are big scalps. You're just kind of glossing over that, but that's like a big deal. Like, to have.
It was. And then the market research we done, and we had customers here that were like biting our hands to take it.
How did it? So a question that we get, because we're a service-driven business, is how do you get clients? And for us, we started out not knowing anybody in our industry, not knowing anybody that needed our service, and it's really out there shaking hands and meeting people. So how did your first opportunity come around?
Well, for the India opportunity, I'm going to say something cliche here, and that is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Luckily, I had an uncle who had ties in India, and he made the introduction in one email, a single email, and that was all it took.
Yeah.
So, it was a bit of luck there.
Yeah. It's funny, we were talking about this earlier, and I don't believe in fate. Like, I don't think that the stars align in a particular way, but I do think you create your own opportunities.
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you're talking to the right people, or you're putting an idea out there, it might resonate with somebody.
Yes.
And that wouldn't have happened had you not decided to make this product.
I'm going to challenge that theory later on in this discussion.
Please do.
And I've got a pretty compelling proposition. So, I think there was that who you know, and there was a lot of boots on the ground, just grafting, going around, seeing shops, and was it World Buffet? They were the ones who really wanted it.
You just brought that memory back.
I said to the guy, look, the product's not ready. He said, I don't care, I want your prototypes.
So World Buffet, you've probably seen them. There's about 6-7 of them in Scotland, maybe more now. And it was at Cooking Indies. wasn't it? So
Yeah,
you hear their ads on TV. I had another introduction through my cousin's husband, and he was like, look, I'm a chef, I know the manager, I can get all the managers for all the world buffets for cooking indies to meet you
one day, yeah.
So I was like, okay, great. You know?
We ended up doing a presentation for them at like
I love
10
those
o'clock
moments.
at night.
I love those moments when somebody says something to you and you're just trying to, you can feel your heart racing because you're like,
Yes.
you're just trying to keep their cool. It's like, that would maybe be helpful to me. Maybe, could you arrange that? You don't want to seem too eager. You're just like, oh God, please.
But yeah,
10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
like 10 or midnight or something like that
Yep.
at night in Sucky Street, and all the managers had kind of rallied round, and we'd done a presentation live for them, and
brought
they
the
loved
sign in, we had the dynamics, see you do this, I'll do this, you know, and
They loved it, yeah.
yeah, we really sold it to them. The final piece of the show was putting it in the windows, going across the street, using the sign, and that's I think when the guy, what was his name, the manager?
Bish.
Bish, and that's who he was like, give me them. And we were like, whoa, you know, it's not quite ready yet, you know, get sued if there's a fault here. And but yeah, that was another opportunity, Nana,
That I think is still available, to be
Yeah.
honest, because no one really has brought that technology to the mass market. It's really only your tech shops, you know, your phone repair shops and your computer shops that use this technology.
you probably see those signs, you know, your sort of single colour signs, mobile phone repair here.
Open here.
I guess ours was a 21st century version of that, so
22nd century.
22nd even,
Because
yeah.
it's not even here in the 21st, yeah. Yep. Well,
See, that's
unless
the
you
thing,
guys.
to a normie like Matt and I, that's not our world at all. So we see an LED sign and think it's an LED sign.
Yes.
You know, I wouldn't ever consider that there was different levels or a hierarchy to that.
Yes.
So it's interesting that you obviously have this. You can see the future of this.
Yes.
And I think to a lot of people, I'm just going to speak for the world, but I think for a lot of people that's not their day to day. They would just not understand that.
Yes.
So how did you find communicating that message, or did you, when you spoke to these business owners, they just got it straight away, or has there been pushback to the idea? Have you found that, like, for what we do, it happened today? Good friend of ours was like, oh, web designer, right? Yeah, that's competitive. Lots of web designers out there.
Yep.
But that's what endeavour is not competitive, that's worth pursuing.
Yep.
So obviously you having a product here that has some unique or compelling element to it that other people can't see from the outset. So how did you communicate that to the business owners that you're pitching to, and what do you say when you're trying to sell this to somebody that's got a shop or got some sort of premises where this would benefit them?
I think our famous line is an LED open sign will increase a shop's footfall by 30%. We ask, how would you get the other 70?
Yes.
And that's
I might just grate that cheese over my spaghetti once. Wow, I love it. Do you want a job in branding?
Do you know,
Why the hell is that not in the back of your notes? More importantly.
I mean, I was the... Okay, so specifically for us, the business owners we approached, I always split them into two categories. The ones who were sort of visionaries, lack of a better word, always looking to improve, so they're actively looking for that new thing. Pioneers. And the others, which you need the cheesy lines, you need the push, you need to put it on a plate, so to speak.
you need to show them that other people are convinced,
Yeah.
the laggards.
And one thing I would add is, interestingly, when you've got something that's brand new, people don't know what they want. They don't know. The example that I always give, it seems probably sick of me giving this example, is when Apple were first bringing out their iPhone, they done a survey, and I think it was Quartz, Quartz, who, I've got an article on this, anybody wants to check it. And when they surveyed people, the feedback was, why would we want a phone that's got all this stuff in it? Why? What's the reason? And then look now. And so it's a perfect example. Okay, it's a phone and this is signs, but when something's new, people don't always know what the benefit is or how they would use it. That was difficult for some.
I think generally speaking, people don't know what they want at all. It's the big thing.
Yeah. If you go, I suppose that is an easier sell. Do you want more money, business owner?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Singh, I'm listening.
I'm intrigued.
Yes, tell me more. Yeah, fair enough.
So yeah, that was the approach we took, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a very, I don't know if it was tactically strategized the questionnaire we gave in the market research, but the answer was always 90% what we were looking to hear.
Yes. I found the normal business owner, I know not, your barber shop, your news agent, these sort of businesses, they were a bit more difficult. When I went to India and showed it to Delhi Airport and things like that, they were quick off the mark. They seen it, where we can use it, how we can use it. That was an easier sell, to be honest.
I think that's the thing that both of us have realised from doing this for 3 years, is how wrong we were, how sickeningly wrong we were about the approach we took to try and get customers. Was that we thought that it was a kind of a growth. You start with the small companies, you get them invested in it, and then you go up a level to the next level of companies, your medium-sized businesses, then you're slightly larger, and then your enterprises, and you'd eventually get there. But you spend all this time trying to convince people who don't understand the value of it in the first place, that it's the right thing for them. But really, the person that you should be talking to is the guy at the top straight away. Just go straight to don't try and talk to the small store owner in Glasgow Airport. Just try and grab the guy who owns Glasgow Airport and say, I want to put this in every single store that you have in your airport. Because he's going to go, alright, I'll give it a try. Whereas a small store owner is going to go, well, why do I need that? What is this? I'd like you to send me a proposal on it.
The objectives are different, aren't they?
I think you'll know yourself, there's a hierarchy of needs that your business has, and if someone, because I'm sure you'll get it as well, people will try and pitch you ideas and this could really improve your business. But when you're starting out, or you're small, or you're of a certain size, you need to know what the immediate effect of this investment is going to be. You can't take a punt on something that costs £50,000, £100,000. You don't have that capital to spend. So you need to see cause and effect straight away if you're a small business. So going to a barber shop, they're going to be like, I don't know about that. How much does that panel cost? I'll just need to hear, Johnny, you're fired, The cost to them, the risk and reward isn't obvious to them because they don't think on scale like an owner would.
But I think that's the trick of it. I think that's what separates entrepreneurs, I guess, is the name for it, from people who own businesses. And that's the distinction that a lot of people maybe don't get, is that if you own a business, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're an entrepreneur. It just means that you were able to sign up as a limited company and open the doors and be able to get by every day. But it's the same. It's what we do. What we do, obviously, and I guess exactly what you do as well is that you're saying to a company that we know that what we sell will provide a benefit to your business if you're willing to make that investment. And the people that aren't willing to make that investment are business owners, and they go, I'm not sure about that, I can't afford it, or it's not, they're not willing to invest in the thing that's going to make them more money. They only want to invest in a sure thing which doesn't exist, which is why they never get any bigger.
They're preoccupied with cost as opposed to the potential return.
It's risk appetite as well.
Which is
very key, isn't it? And
that's one of the questions we used when we were trying to determine how much would you pay for this product, and we said to them, if you think this product will bring you £1 a day, it covers its cost in 1 year. And everyone got it.
That was a much clearer way to break that that thought process that differentiates the businessman from the entrepreneur. So with the businessman, like Haseeb said, £1 a day, that's all it cost you, and then suddenly oh yeah, cool. You know, risk appetite is increased now. You know?
Yeah, I like that. We've a client who we digitized an old system that they used to use. So they used to have a customer would phone them and would book a item to be fixed, and then they'd write it down in the paper ledger, and then they'd put it back on the shelf, and then 4 weeks later the customer would phone and say, "Where's this item?" And they'd be like, "When did you book it in?" They'd pull out this ledger, they'd write it down, and then it took an ungodly amount of time to answer such a simple question. And we digitized that system for them. But in the build up to that, like we've been working with the guy for over a few years now, and a good client, good customer. We've got a great relationship. But initially it was really hard to try and hone in on the value of this to him, because the way he'd been doing it had been working. So to kind of upsell him on the how much time would you be saving? So the way that we put it to him was, if they could have an answer to that question instantly, as opposed to spending 10 minutes, how much would you need to pay somebody to have an instant answer to that question? It's like, whoa, 4 or 5 times that person's salary. So paying for the system is a fraction of that cost. You know, like putting it in real world terms, like you were saying about how this system will pay for itself within a year. Like, people need to have that tangible, especially if what you're saying to them is something that's potential based. And in the first instance, that is not obvious. So if you can simplify it into terms that everyone can understand,
I think you've honed in on that perfectly. That is it. You know, it's the value. If you can show that value, you know, you don't need to persuade them. I guess it's obvious. It becomes obvious, doesn't it?
And did you do like target audiences when you first started?
I did, you know, go out and speak to 10 different barbers, 10 different fruit shoppers, 10 different butchers, 10 different
nightclub on Partick. You got us the introduction. They used it at club night. We did. So we did kind of see who is this resonating most with. And it came back saying it kind of resonates with them all. A little bit. And we knew that we'd sort of cast a net far and wide with this product, which is turning into a bit of a challenge with MyFlag right now, to be honest. If we're to bring things back on topic. So
I realised we were speaking about our history for the last 45 minutes. It's a long history,
I guess the initial, you know, if we go back to talking about manipulating LEDs and things like that, there's a lot of things we could actually branch off with this core concept of manipulating LEDs. And, you know, like Haseeb said, target market, it turns out everybody would like to manipulate LEDs in their own way, and that's why this was this wide net. And you know, the club was like, well, that's pretty cool, we would use that. The butcher was like, yeah, I could change my deal every day, that's pretty cool. And now we're finding similar problems
with MyFlag,
which is
MyFlag. Because flags can be used for all sorts of reasons.
Right, okay, so MyFlag, let's transition
Tell
a
us
little
about
bit.
MyFlag.
Let's evolve. So what is MyFlag, and how did this evolve out of your previous product?
I think MyFlag would... the first time I heard about the idea of LED flags was your father.
Yes.
He said he was a big football fan, and he's loved the idea of
just looking for the right flag.
Standing in your stands, representing your flag in the form of LEDs. It's a really simple idea, but simple ideas are often the best. Flags are meant to be seen. LEDs are really good at getting your attention.
You know what? I full disclosure here, I saw a very early prototype of this, and I haven't seen it in person until now. So this is I'm a babe here. This is the first time we've seen this.
I'll give a quick product demo. So it's came along a long way. As you've seen me there, I was going through the 50 flags. See, we've got on here.
European.
So these are all European flags. Choose your flag. Then you can animate it. So you could have it scrolling. It adds a bit of punch, should we say.
it's more eye-catching when it's animated.
Yeah. And it gives choice. Choice is a big thing.
Yeah.
Flash it.
Oh, I've got so many questions. Right, where to start? So product. How did this product? So you've got your panel idea, shop fronts. That's where you're heading. And then what made you pivot to this?
It was really cost. It was really how can we use our technology that we have in its most primitive form, that is cheap to manufacture, cheaper to
Compete with the sunlight.
cheaper to develop, cheaper to manufacture, cheaper to sell.
Robust as well.
There you go.
And it's alive. All good. That's 100% product testing right there. Sorry, Seb, you were.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where the idea came from, was a really low cost product.
I mean, when we said my father was working on this, the panel and these other ideas, the flag was also in there. So in his crazy inventions, when he's working on the games and things like that, he created a mini LED panel with flags, but that got sidelined because of all the things that were going on. You know, my father's passing, the patent, all this stuff. So the flags got sidelined.
Yeah.
And it was until we realised the cost of the big sign that we opened the drawer, so to speak, and this thing was glowing, you know, and it was like,
let's do this.
Yeah.
Wearable LED badge. Yeah. So funnily enough, we decided to build the product, and then after building, the first prototype and stuff, we discovered that people were partaking in this ritual at events, at concerts, and it really started with holding the lighter up at a concert.
Yeah.
you know.
And that evolved into the phone, because we're all here from Glasgow. Celtic Football Club, who hold up the light on their phone every match.
That's
on the
right.
60 something, yeah. And we saw this trend emerging. And actually, funnily enough, I was watching the TV one day, and there was some sort of press conference happening in Turkey, and everyone in the audience, they had a flag in one hand and they had their phone in the other, and they were holding them both up. I was like, my flag is that.
And yeah, that's pretty much where it was.
Yeah. So it's quite funny how we, after building the building the first prototype, we discovered that people were already wanting this product.
Yeah. I mean, it's
didn't know it.
It's a natural evolution from the lighter to the phone to MyFlag. You know, that's the way we see it, and just the way people naturally started holding up phones.
Yeah.
You know, this product's a fraction of the cost of a phone, and it does the job bloody a lot better. You know, so
have you approached like stadiums or events to have MyFlag as maybe like like they could put them maybe under the stadium seats or something like that?
Okay, well, you're bringing me on to my story about how the stars aligned.
Alright, so this is the argument for fate existing. Oh shit.
So I joined up with Entrepreneurship Spark. This was one of the second last round of intakes they took in before the company crumbled and was sold to RBS.
and
Entrepreneurial Spark crumbled.
Oh yeah. So it crumbled.
Why did they crumble? Say this again. Entrepreneurial Spark crumbled.
do you
Yeah.
what entrepreneurial spark is? It's just that it's
it was acquisitioned
Oh.
by RBS. It was previously in William Hawkey's building in New
Is that why the main guy, I forget his name, is it Jim Duffy, started his own thing because Entrepreneurial Spark?
Yeah, he was the CEO, so I think there was disputes between the CEOs and the principal investors, and that's the reason why he left.
How did you find that?
eSpark.
Interestingly, we were there for the large display product.
We were there. We were there in the early days. We were the second intake. Second intake. This is when Turtle were there. They were nobodies. And Moolsey were there. They were nobodies. He's a healthy pizza guy.
Yep, they were there. Yep.
Yeah, they were there as well. Yeah, Clear Returns, Vicky Brock.
Yes.
When she was a nobody, this before these kind of multi-million-pound startups were there.
And in terms of our timeline, this was while the patent court case was going on. We had the display, so that was where we were in our journey.
Supposed to be around 2013.
Yes,
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
5 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, well, it's amazing to see that these kind of
companies
entrepreneurs
are
we were sharing workspace with have gone on to do so well.
Created big
as a result of
businesses
that,
and
yeah.
very
So
successful.
yeah, I definitely think the eSpark model worked, but maybe
think they
there
lost
was some,
their way.
There were some optimizations required.
Yeah.
They were too focused on the entrepreneur, and they were too focused on. My personal feeling is a blanket approach for all businesses. Now, the needs of a alcoholic gin making business or a food business and a tech business are very separate,
Yes.
and that's they didn't really facilitate.
Especially us, we were maybe I was wrong. I think we were the only electronic hardware in the. And I don't think they get many electronic
I don't
hardware
think you get any
intakes.
hardware technology business in the whole of Scotland, to be honest. There's
few and far
maybe-
between.
Yeah, I can maybe name a handful.
I guess that's because hardware is hard to do.
Yes,
really hard to
and
do.
you mentioned China earlier on.
As you said, with the investment you need in capital to actually get a product, and that might not, like a prototype, that might not be the final product,
And the whole ecosystem as well, we've not got that ecosystem here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like a money man, you're an investor in Scotland, and you look at the statistics. What's the main export of Scotland?
Whiskey, cotton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're gonna
Software. Software.
So
Yes.
you're gonna invest in that.
Yep.
Any hardware business that come along,
No, you're
what do you
against
think
it.
you're gonna do? Consumer electronics?
Yeah.
Do what?
What are rock stars? Mojang, what's it? Minecraft, the company that ported Minecraft are here as well.
Which is great, guys. It's brilliant that stuff's coming out. But then when you get two entrepreneurs like us with big dreams
hardware.
about making hardware here in Scotland, you're up against it.
Yeah,
you really are.
The numbers.
I think the difficulty is that we don't manufacture and we can't compete against Indonesia, China, all these places that build products.
That's right.
But you see the reverse of that now, where in these places like Shenzhen, they are big tech companies now because they know how to do hardware really well.
Yes.
And
Silicon Valley.
they can just borrow inspiration
Yes.
of software from other companies.
Yes.
Like most modern. I always bring it back to the smartphones. I'm a total smartphone geek in case you haven't noticed yet. But like Huawei and all these Chinese companies now are absolutely slaying
Yes.
every other Android maker, even the Koreans. I think Samsung are the only company that can hold their own against the Chinese companies.
Yeah.
But it's because I say we plural, I mean the West had outsourced all of their hardware to
Yes.
China, and now because China have the know-how to do hardware, they're like,
Yes.
all right, see you later.
Yes.
We're just gonna focus on software now that we have the capital to do so.
Yes.
So it's really commendable that you two have a hardware and software product.
Yes.
Yeah.
But to sell that must be so difficult.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are believers and unbelievers. Probably more unbelievers.
Yeah.
I mean, people are reserved to take a punt on something that is really groundbreaking.
Yeah.
It's really going to change the landscape of events like this product is. And to take it back to the original question of how did we get it into events, I'm kind of pleased to say, officially we can't go out and announce this on our
Advertise
website
it or
page
market it.
advertise this, but MyFlag is going to be available to buy at the European Athletics Championships
Oh yeah.
in their official stores in Central Station, George Square, a couple of venues, and we secured that deal going back to eSpark. I joined eSpark for a second time when the product was ready, and through that I met a lassie, and she said to me one day, she was in my group, they were doing like a group enablement, and she was in my group, I showed the product off, and she turned around to me and said, hey, I think my cousin might be able to help you with that. And I said, all right, who's your cousin? And she going, he done marketing for the Commonwealth Games. I went, all right, that sounds good. Send me his details and I'll set up a meeting. Sent me his name. I fired him into LinkedIn, and this guy was the head of licensing and merchandise for the Commonwealth Games.
It comes back to that. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
So my mind was blown at that point.
Oh God!
What's his name?
Remember your cousin that you mentioned earlier on? It's not that big a deal, but maybe just a small meeting sometime.
Should be wondering why you're looking at our LinkedIn profile every day last month.
So she'd done the email intro, we'd done the meeting, me and him went down to a restaurant down in Giffnock, and we met with the guy, we showed the guy the product. This was still in the prototype stages.
That's
we didn't
right.
have it in this kind of flashy, new, nice looking case. He said, okay, I like the idea, come back to me and when it's finished. And we said, okay, great. We went away, and then my best friend, one of my best friends of like 10 or 15 years, he turned around to me one day and said, oh, by the way, do you know my mum? She's in procurement for the city council. I was like, fuck's sake, man. You're telling me this now. And she said, yeah, if you want to get your MyFlag into the European Games, send us some info. So I got her email address, I sent her some information, and she forwarded it on to the relevant people.
Yeah.
It landed back in the lap of this original guy, Jerry,
Who'd been originally been put onto through eSpark.
who emailed me and said...
So he had a reference point for who you are.
Yeah.
And you're coming through the
Yeah.
procurement.
And
Yeah.
we'd met him before.
And then...
I'm telling you, you might call that fate, but you right. But you made your own luck. I'm telling
Wait,
Yeah.
it gets even freakier.
you. Strapped in. Go on then.
So then he came back with an email and said, oh, this has just landed on my lap. I take it you're further along. Let's set up a meet. He goes, by the way, the master licensee has been chosen.
Yes.
Let's set up a meeting. So I went and met the master licensee. It's like a company called Legends, who...
They do quite a lot of events, merchandise.
Yeah,
don't
they done the Rio Games, the
Yep.
London Games.
Big company.
Big company.
Yeah.
And I went and met with them and showed them the product. The guy loved it straight away. He was talking about taking it, putting it in the stores straight away.
It was that thing where you talked about not needing to convince the people who...
Yeah.
He just... There was no words spoken, just...
The
just got it.
response,
And he got it.
he got it straight away. It was brilliant. So then he said to me, okay, but this is a prototype. Come back to me when it's kind of in its final packaging and whatnot, what
Yes.
we're going to be showing customers. I went, all right, fine. I went away, and we had still some more work to do. One day, my father-in-law, he rolls into my house, and I had the product, and he said, do you know who would be really good for this product? He went, Jerry. I said, how do you know Jerry? He was like, I was drinking in the pub with him. Just before the weekend.
No way.
I said, why were you drinking in the pub with him? How do you know this guy? Turns out this guy lived across the road from my wife for 5 years.
I may have to retract my statement about fate.
I mean, this could not be avoided.
How many coincidences have to happen before it's meant to happen?
Totally.
Exactly. This was meant to
You're
happen.
shattering my view of existence right now.
So,
What 3 points of contact?
3 points of contact. So then we'd set up the last meeting. We had the product in its final packaging.
We got stickers with the branding of European Games. We looked fantastic.
Yeah, we took it to them, put it on the table, said, okay, this is what your customers are going to get. And they said, look, from what you had to what this is now, you've done incredibly well.
And
We're taking this.
yeah. And then between that time as well, there was. So we've showed you guys the flags, the effects, but we thought, can we give more value with this product? We're already manipulating LEDs, so it sounds basic but very practical. We added a colour block mode, so now you could simply choose colours, and you've got another form of display on this product.
Another form of expression.
Form of expression.
You know, if you're trying to think of an idea here, think about you're at a football match and you see a bad tackle occur.
And then you just go...
You can, as the
What was
English
that?
like to say, show them the cheese.
You know?
So you mentioned the champions earlier, like Celtic Park. They hold their lights up at 67th minute, commemorating the 67th Champions League.
You just called them the champions.
I did, yeah. I was
Slip that one in there.
trying to
Mention the champions
just
earlier.
trying to
Oh, yeah.
slip my allegiances in. Yeah. So back to the point. So the champions, have you approached them to say, look, you should put these under your seats at every game? Then in a European football night, if they bring up, and you've already coordinated what flag appears on each seat, you can have a display that's like, imagine green and white across the whole stadium.
Yeah. So, I mean, does this open up for our... Does this question open up to the Shenzhen and the other products, cheaper fan engagement? I mean...
Yeah, I mean...
How do we...
What we've created is really the middle ground between a couple of different applications.
Yes.
We thought, you can use this at events, sports, music. You can always use it as an alternative safety light for cyclists or kids who are riding scooters and stuff on the road.
Or a grown man who's riding a scooter, perhaps.
So we guess we designed and engineered this for lots of different market ends, but
the problem with that is we've middle grounded the price. I mean, if you're in the sports events market and you're looking for a scarf, you might think this is a little bit expensive. But if you're in the cycling or safety lights scene and you're looking for a safety light,
it's not a big cost.
It's very cheap. Actually, it's much cheaper than other full color LED lights that are on the market. So we're caught between a rock and a hard place in terms of our pricing structure at the moment. And I actually flew out to China. We launched this product. This went live on our website, MyFlag.
Soft launch.
.store.
Yeah.
What was that? MyFlag.store.
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 You check it out at MyFlag.store.
Or if you go
MyFlag.store.
Yeah. Or even if you go myflag.co.uk, you'll get to the same place.
MyFlag.co.uk.
Have you plugged this enough, or my.co.uk and .com? Okay.
No,
.com.
No, .com.
.com.
This is a
.com is actually owned by the most patriotic country in the world, America.
MyFlag.com's owned by an American company.
Of course it is.
Of course.
Who else would own MyFlag.com?
Well, we own the trademark.
yeah.
So we the product went live 2 months ago, and I flew to China the same day to commemorate.
Yes.
I flew to the Silicon Valley of hardware, Shenzhen.
Yes.
For a few reasons. One of them was to find manufacturing. The other one was to see if there's any competitors. See if there's. I'm flying to the capital of the LED capital of the world,
And technology capital.
And hardware technology capital of the world, to see if anything like it exists. And we found out, and when we flew out to find out if we could make it cheaper.
Yeah.
If we could redesign it with Chinese parts to make it more appealable for our business-to-business model.
I guess on that third point as well, it was to understand the capabilities. So, we're designing this here with UK parts, we're sourcing it from but we needed to know what was the cheapest, what's the best way.
What's the cheapest way to do this?
And you can't understand that here. It's that ecosystem we spoke about.
Yeah.
It's non-existent, but when Haseeb went to Shenzhen...
Yeah, I mean, we're using components from Microchip, Texas Instruments. They're like big Western brands, but
anyone's got access to.
They're expensive. They're really expensive. And when you go out to China and you show them the technology, they go, okay, use this processor maker and use this LED drive maker, and they're significantly cheaper. But one of the questions I asked, interestingly, the manufacturer and the engineer who'd specifically made LED products was, you're the LED capital of the world, why haven't you made a product like this? You've got full color LED technology, you've got LED name badges, why haven't you made anything like this? And the answer was, it's too expensive. It's too expensive for a Chinese market.
But that answered a big question we had here, which was, if we release this, we welcome competitors because it will get the idea out there and people using it, but
you're not going to be competing.
Is somebody going to rip us off cheaply? And, you know, when Haseeb phoned me, I think it was the second, third night after his research in Shenzhen, and he said to me, Sonny, turns out that it's not as easy to make, or it's not as cheap as to make as you think. And there's an advantage and disadvantage to that, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, it's too expensive. What they really need is they need a Western company, a Western brand to set the bar for the price of this product before they can create it and ship it out into the kind of Tokyo and Korea and Singapore and Malaysia, these kind of richer countries. They need us to set the bar for them first. And that's where I learned the value and the power of the Western brand to China. I mean, they hold us in really high esteem. We are really the trendsetters for them. So they could not facilitate any markets with this until we've trailblazed for them. And that was really reassuring.
Because how do you have a price point if you don't have a price point?
Because nobody wants to copy us, because to copy us would be too expensive.
They did it themselves.
They need to do it.
That's really bittersweet news, isn't it?
It is, exactly.
Your product's too expensive, so fuck that.
Yes.
Not copying you.
Yep.
That's good. That's good news. That means if you hit it, you have hit the market first with this. So that means that all that you need to do is just pummel people over the head with this.
Electronic flag, MyFlag. MyFlag. What you really want is for old dears. You want my mum to be mentioning LED flags and saying, "Yeah, the MyFlag."
Yes.
Yeah, the MyFlag. So that when so it's like when they talk about consoles and they call everything Nintendos.
Yes, exactly.
Are you playing on the Nintendo? Yes. Xbox One S. Yes. That's so awesome, amazing. So where are we today? Like, what are you doing just now, and what is the plan for the immediate future?
I think getting the EU Games deal was a blessing and a curse. It was a blessing because we had it validated and we knew people would want it. You know, experts in the merchandise industry would want it. But it was a curse, we thought, because we thought when we go to market, it's instantly people are going to get it and the sales are going to flood in. We soft launched, so we didn't really go in with a huge marketing strategy. We were going to make it up as we went along.
And it was a bit of that testing the markets. You know, we mentioned cycling, we mentioned music festivals. We didn't quite know what market's going to go. You know, give me it. So
there was a few markets that we were targeting, but the one we ended up getting the most traction in, like the one that we were putting posts up and we were getting 3 times as many hits, likes and views and stuff, was the Pride market.
LGBT.
Yeah.
Because it sort of sits in line with their
ethos, their
values. That Pride March is pushing awareness of this movement, and it's pushing awareness of this movement that's got it where it is today.
Yeah.
And so that brings us up to, you know, we've got these markets. Some are reacting more than others. Some are easier to set the trend. You know, so it's a new product. We have to sort of show them the use, but the Pride market just got it
So
straight
what you're
away.
saying is you capitalised on the gays. Is that what you're trying to say?
Rainbow
But
capitalism.
can I just PC that and say we've got LGBT, so there's more factions to it as well.
Okay, now
And
what's really interesting is, you know, it's moved from being the Pride movement to the LGBT movement. So they're
it's more
wanting,
inclusive,
yeah,
so you have a different array
they're wanting to be recognised for their individual orientations.
Yes.
And for that reason, the individual orientations are developing their own flags.
So you have your own flag for L, for B, for T, for G, for Q,
transgender.
lesbian.
You know, they've got their own flags.
I'm so curious as to who gets to keep the rainbow.
Yeah.
Because the rainbow's pretty badass.
The rainbow is gay pride. You know, that's
So-
kind
But
of.
it's almost become
It's the Bitcoin of all the cryptocurrencies.
it's the poster flag, you know,
Yeah.
that encapsulates them. But it's been a learning curve knowing about these different flags and these different sects, hasn't it? And increased awareness at the same time, to be honest.
That's so good that you get to support that community as well. Because obviously, if it becomes synonymous, like with pride marches or LGBTQRI marches, and you can, I don't want to say embed because that makes it sound like you're a covert operation. But if you can
become a part of that,
become a part of that and help them spread their message, then obviously that's another route.
I mean, it was really the community that got in touch with us first.
Yep.
Alright.
They said, we want to see these flags. And we said, okay, we'll give the community what they want. We'll give our customer base what they want.
How about our first post? It was a picture of the gay pride flag, the rainbow, and a simple caption: all the LGBTQ flags, full stop. How will you fly yours? And you know, we never thought. I guess we didn't know what we were going to get back, but to our surprise, people replying: asexual flag, this flag, that flag, and
Sexual, polysexual. You know, we're becoming educated ourselves on these
totally
these different terms. 3,000 likes within a week.
you know.
It was tremendous. Yeah, they're
That's awesome.
yeah.
So, I mean, coming back to MyFlag and what we're doing, and I guess we're in a place now where
Yeah,
know,
we're narrowing our
focus, should we say?
focus. Yeah, and we know that LGBT deserves its own right in itself.
Yeah.
And the sports that we're sort of warming up to with the athletics coming up, that deserves its own right.
Okay.
In the place as well.
So sports and LGBT, and we're going to give them their own focus each. And
It's not only two things that are joined together.
I was going to say there's an opportunity there as well.
interestingly, there's sorry to butt in, Nana. There's the Paris Gay Games coming up this summer, which is the marrying of sports and the LGBT community. So we're looking at this like, this is exactly what we're trying to do here, you know.
Well, there's such a problem within sports. I know for football example, it's very difficult for a gay player to come out because of just the culture surrounding football. So if you're able to promote the normalisation of that within sport as well, because there's got to be hundreds of famous footballers that are gay that just have never come out.
Statistically, of
Cristiano Ronaldo just come out the closet. I mean, that would be so good for the world of football. Like, really? No, really? Okay, hypothetically speaking, if he was to come out as gay, as the gay man that he is.
Is he meant to be gay?
I mean, we'll just...
That's it. In the future, you'll be reading a wiki of where this came from.
No, but I mean, the best football player of a generation, probably in the world. You know, imagine that kind of support if he was to come out as a homosexual man. That would be amazing for the community. But this gay, what's it called? Sorry,
it's the Paris Gay Games, I believe. That's the name of it. Yeah.
That's a thing I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I guess this probably didn't exist 5-10 years ago. So we're right in the it's a nascent thing. I think it's just beginning to come up to the surface. You know.
So how did you? It's a difficult question, but how did you prepare yourself for that? Like, not prepare yourself for that happening, but prepare yourself when it happened. Because for me, maybe that's just me, because I don't know a lot about that community.
Yes.
But for me, I'd be like, oh shit. What about if I say something here that I'm not supposed to say?
Yes.
Or what about if I do something here that I'm not supposed to do?
Well, that's the kind of problem we're coming under with the flags. You know, we're brushing the political divide
Yes.
constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened with Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour press conference that at Bargemouth?
Yeah, no, tell us about this.
Yeah.
So what happened?
That was insane for me. I see it happened to you. You tell the
We're
story.
based at Rookie Oven, which is at Fairfield Shipyards, and it had been a hard couple of weeks. We were really struggling with product awareness. At this point, we'd launched. I'd come back from China. We were trying to push the brand and push the product out there and get its visibility.
And again, not knowing the markets.
And not knowing the markets and not really committing to anything. And I'm sitting in the office pretty stressed out after a couple of hard weeks. And somebody walks up the stairs and says, "Nicholas, there's loads of cameras outside. I think Nicola Sturgeon's coming." And I thought, brilliant.
Get the Saltire on.
I'll get a Saltire flag and get downstairs and put it on there, get a selfie, and that'd be a good social media post. So I messaged the receptionist on the internal chat, and she said, "No, it's Jeremy Corbyn, and he's here right now." Oh, I know, crap. What have I missed? So I grabbed the product, ran down the stairs, and when I got there, I saw there was a voice emanating from a room down the hall. I went downstairs, and it was a press conference taking place, and it was full. And I was wanting to get in, but the room was full, and there was a lady man the door, and she said, "You know, it's too full right now." And I went, "Okay, no problem. I'll catch Corbyn when he's coming out. I'll put this on and I'll take a picture." And then I was watching Jeremy Corbyn speak, and there was a backdrop, and it said, "Build them in Britain." So I was like, "Well, the Saltire is not going to work here."
I'm done. Fate exists.
So I changed the product to Union Jack.
50-second one down.
But at this point, a photographer had made his way in and said, "Can I follow after him?" She said, "Okay, you need to stand at the back." And I went in and stood at the back, and there was another speaker had gone up at this point, and then they'd gone to a sort of Q&A, and they were taking this Q&A in rounds of 3 questions. They'll take 3 questions, they'll answer 3, and then they'll take another round. The first few hands were pretty shy to go up. It was quite a serious tone in the room. You know, it was like jobs and livelihoods at stake.
And it was in the famous Glasgow shipyards, of course, as well.
Yeah, so I was like a bit apprehensive, like what I'm going to ask. I was planning on asking a question, and it was going to be pretty brazen and pretty cheeky, to be honest. I was going to ask Jeremy to take one of these there in front of, there's a room full of cameras. There was journalists, BBC cameras and whatnot. So the lady said, "Okay, we're taking our last round of questions," and I just stuck my hand up. I was like, "Go for it." And they went, you, and him up the back. That's me. And I was selected to go last. And so I was going through in my head what I was going to ask him. I was going to structure the question. And I don't know what had been said, but the guy before me had managed to make the whole room laugh.
So it set the tone, doesn't
So
it?
it lowered the tone a little bit. It like warmed the room up a little bit.
Yeah.
And
because it was so serious, it was so serious. Jobs, shipyards, build it back in Britain. Here's Haseeb, MyFlag at the back.
So they went
going through his head.
They went, "Last question," and the mic was starting to make its way over to me, and I was confident of this. The room is warmed, and I started making my way over to the mic, and I grabbed it, and I was centre, stood at the back, and I said, "So, I'm Haseeb Ibrahim from a technology startup. We're based up the stairs called MyFlag. My question is for Jeremy. We're currently facing the challenges of building a product in Britain
Backdrop.
and exporting that globally. It's consumer electronics, so call me a dreamer. My question is, Jeremy, would you help our business today?" by accepting this product as a gift. And the whole crowd just erupted. Including Jeremy, including the people standing here. And this is on Twitter. Like they managed to capture this on video on Twitter. On the handle Corbinator. And Jeremy, he was a bit apprehensive, and I think he was getting signs from his advisor. Like,
Space rubbing. Spin Doctor was there, just like Jeremy.
Like,
Next question.
MI5 are on standby.
Yeah, that's it. You're running up to him with a flashing light. Get down!
Code Red! What was her surname?
I think there was no other answer. Jeremy, you said yes. He was like, yes.
Oh,
So I had a man on a mission. I rushed down to the front and went to put this round his neck, and he grabbed it first and he said, "What is it?" And I kind of explained to him, and I explained to him.
And I mean, as it went round his neck, you know, because I seen the video obviously afterwards.
Yeah,
the camera clicks.
Yeah, it was like presenting him a medal.
Yeah.
You know, the camera clicking like mental.
He dipped down graciously and Haseeb just like puffed his chest, you know, and just presented him with this MyFlag. Oh.
Yeah. And like he instantly, when he presented with this medal, he like raised his hand in triumph as to a victory kind of salute, and he instantly remembered, "Oh, I've got this guy here." So he aborted that and put his hand. And they took some more photos, and I was leaving, and like his kind of assistant said to me, "Oh, give me your email address," and adrenaline was pumping at this point. I was like trying to type in my email address to the smartphone. My hands were shaking, and there was a Herald journalist who took my details and stuff, and I, to be honest, in hindsight, I should have stuck about and gave an interview or something, but like I said, it was a stressful week. I was wearing this kind of £6 pre-mix t-shirt. I hadn't showered that day.
There's a lot going on.
Get out of there. Adrenaline was flying. Get out of there.
That's awesome.
And I left.
And that was just, you know, see, just as a company, and I guess a lot of companies go through a struggle of awareness. I guess you guys have been through that. And, you know, when I got the call from Haseeb, and I was like, "Mate, you will not believe what happened." I was like just screaming on the phone, like, "What? Are you kidding me on?" And it was just a nice, it was a nice little thing to happen to us.
Yeah, it kind of set the bar a little bit of who we could get to wear this product, you know, for our social media campaign and stuff. To be honest, I walked up into the office and said, "We're going viral."
Yeah.
But as it turns out, nice, warming stories about Corbyn helping entrepreneurs, they don't get the traction on the media.
Yeah.
In fact, the only paper who printed the story was the Daily Mail. And
believe it or not,
the caption was, you know, Jeremy Corbyn with MyFlag, with our branded, lanyard, with a Union Jack, and the caption was, "Corbyn, Union Man."
Yeah.
Here's Corbyn with an LED Union Jack, as if he walked into the place wearing it.
Yeah.
Nothing about me. But it was just in.
See, this must be the PR nightmare that he lives in.
Yeah, it was.
What the hell?
Exactly. Typical Daily Mail,
Yeah.
using it to enforce their own agenda, pro-union sentiment.
Yeah.
I'd posted this picture on Facebook. My pro-indie pals were going mental. Like, "What have you done, Haseeb?" And
do you know, in hindsight, Haseeb should have changed it to a saltire in the very last second, and it would have been Corbyn for independence.
But I don't think this fell in line with his statements about Mary
Building-
Black.
yeah,
Mary
yeah.
Black.
Oh,
So
yep.
that was the kind of line that quoted.
Yeah.
Was
What happened with Mary Black?
There's some ongoing, he said this, she said that, and that was a...
her thinking he was pro-independence, but he wasn't, and she lost faith in him, and him saying, because one of the questions that were answered before me was a Herald reporter who, like, very timidly ducked his head down and said, "What's your remarks on Mary Black's comments about," obviously stirring the pot, you know, and he remarked that, and that's what they quoted in the article. in the Evening Times and the Herald Online is exactly where the product was seen as well.
I mean, overall, that's massive. That's positive. You've got the pictures. You can tell the story. Like you go to an event where you're talking about this on this podcast, you can tell that story.
And it's on our social media. If somebody goes on, they can see, and it's like, what? Jeremy
History.
Corbyn's wearing a MyFlag.
Operation.
Yeah.
Jeremy Corbyn's on our feed.
Yeah, for us it was a positive, yeah.
And that legit thing, that was big for us because, you know, authenticity, trust. You know, when you've got a politician wearing it, it really pushes that.
Something, yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Well, that's a great story.
Yeah.
Amazing PR for yourself. You can push that as much as you want.
Yeah.
And unbelievable. I'm still convinced though, if you don't go out there and take the opportunities when they come, then it won't happen for you. Yeah. And you could have easily been like, Jeremy Corbyn's downstairs. Oh, I'm not going downstairs. You know, like really shy and bashful about it. But no, you were like, opportunity, take my product. If I could staple websites and apps to people's faces, I would do the same thing. So well on you for actually taking the initiative to go and do that.
And I guess, Matt, that ties in what you were saying earlier on, the difference between a businessman and an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur will take that risk. He'll be brazen. He'll put himself out there and not cower away.
Exactly.
And I did get a personal thank you letter from Jeremy Corbyn.
Oh yeah?
Bonus. He's going to go in a frame somewhere in the MyFlag office.
Is he tall? Is he a tall dude? He seems like a tall dude.
Not really, was he?
I was taller than him.
Yeah.
You were taller than him?
Yeah.
Really?
He does seem big, but
He seems like a super tall, and that's not probably the thing that he wants me to be talking about him.
That's his spin
is whether or not he's tall. But he seems like a super tall, like I always assumed to be like this super like lanky dude. Just like
He is medium.
Yeah.
medium.
For a 6'1" guy to say, yeah.
But he's a good one to fall in line with.
Yeah, it did. I mean, we did post about it on Facebook, and we did have a few comments.
But we had to be careful
And
because flags are divisive just on their own without any baggage.
especially a Union Jack, being that we're from Glasgow. You know, like that means a totally different thing up here as it does down south. If I'm in London and I see a Union flag, I'm like, it's fine. They like the monarch, they like the royal wedding, whatever. I see a Union Jack in Glasgow and I'm like, I don't know about that. What kind of views does this guy have? You know,
Staying apolitical with flags, that's
It's impossible.
Right.
It's impossible, yeah. We're constantly going to be brushing the divides.
It's a big challenge for us.
I mean, I think if you are strong in your opinion on these things, it's okay. I think if you start to try and make a excuse for a flag, you've automatically lost. You've lost something. So I think if you just let it be what it is. If somebody that isn't happy with the fact that it was a Union Jack on Jeremy Corbyn's neck, fuck them. That's not your problem.
it's not the symbol itself, is it?
And it's not really something that you want to get into debate in anyway.
Exactly.
As a business, you need to be non-prejudiced.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to. Your goal is profit.
Yeah.
You know, and you need to target everybody.
Which is funny because a lot of people think that there's some sort of secret agenda that business have to keep people down, but if that affects your bottom line, I don't care. Yeah, exactly.
Personally, if you ask me, if Hitler rose from the grave tomorrow and said, "Give me 5,000 Nazi flags," I'd give him 5,000.
But you would also program in for the LGBT.
Of course.
Yeah, you set a timer so that it goes.
You might think that's a bad statement, but look at Hugo Boss.
Yeah.
Hugo Boss.
I mean, the Nazis looked fly. Let's not lie.
Yes, and
It looked amazing.
Who's not to say that fly look added to their authoritative capacity?
Exactly.
Yeah, and who's not to say that Hugo Boss facilitated that? But look at Hugo Boss today. They're a top level fashion brand, and no one holds that against them.
Exactly.
Volkswagen as well. You know, I love Volkswagens, and I know their history with Germany, the people's car. And
Exactly.
I'm like, I still like the car.
I also love the cool, refreshing taste of Fanta.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
it's a
you're always,
minefield.
yeah, you're always going to get that, and especially with flags, and you know, it's just the part and parcel.
I mean, you just can't have prejudice, like you said. You just can't have prejudice as a business.
If anything, it's business that pushes forward tolerances.
Yeah. Think about if I can go back to when we done our LGBT post.
Yeah.
Think about the comments there and the divide and
Yeah.
What, did you have a lot of people like?
people just
There was negative
bashing for the
comments,
sake
yeah.
of it, and then other people. It got to the point. I think Matt makes a good point. Don't engage, and you're providing a
Yeah.
good sort of service, and
Yeah.
you know, just try and keep a calm head and let it be.
I mean, luckily in our profession, the only kind of divide you have is Apple versus Microsoft. It's never anything. It's never anything serious. So it's never contentious. But I mean, it's things like that, like, oh, I don't agree with X, Y, and Z. Like, okay, I don't know why you felt like that was important to share with the world, but
Even the Jeremy Corbyn post, it was an individual said.
A couple of individuals.
Yeah, you know, great post, but I don't think it'll do anything for your sales. We're like,
Oh,
alright,
yeah.
you know, like, well, that's just flags, mate. You know, some people like this flag, some people like that flag. We just sell flags here, you know.
Yeah.
It's an impossible argument to win. It's just an impossible argument to win, and you're best not having that argument, because it really isn't going to do any value to anybody. It's just going to make somebody pissed off at you, and then there's more likely a chance that you're going to say something that you shouldn't say, and then the Daily Mail's going to pick up on it. You know.
I mean, that's a valuable lesson, I think.
But that's the only thing. I mean, like, as a company, fuck the Daily Mail. You know. So
do you know what's an actual?
they're okay to go fuck themselves.
What a great appraisal for yourself is that an Asian man approached Jeremy Corbyn and they had fuck all to say about that.
Yeah.
Like, wow, the Daily Mail had nothing negative to say about an Asian person or a person that isn't
I'm not surprised.
British.
I'm not
That's
surprised they didn't
unbelievable.
reverse Jeremy Corbyn putting his arm around you. So there was like Jeremy Corbyn whips his arm off Asian man. It's just reverse the video. Oh. No. Fucking honestly, the worst.
Yeah.
Honestly, we were having our breakfast. Me and my wife and were having our breakfast in Pollock Park and reading this paper, laughing our heads off at that. The fact that I'd bought 10 newspapers that day, and we were going through them all, saying which one printed it, and it was so hilarious that it was only the Daily Mail, and they printed it in the way that they printed it.
Yeah.
We found that hilarious.
What's funny about that is how did they manage to pull that story from what happened?
Exactly.
Really?
The medicals of Daily Mail.
And that makes me think, what flag could you have used that wouldn't have got some reaction like that?
Yeah.
Salsa.
Is the Israeli flag? And I mean a fucking good one.
Oh, they'd have been so confused. Look at the flag.
Jeremy Corbyn.
People might say what Israel is doing questionable at the moment, but I'm looking at the Eurovision Song Contest next year, which is going to be in Israel. We've got a big Israeli market next May.
I know, you can't do anything. The Daily Mail are a bunch of arseholes. So.
And
I
you know,
personally claim to know nothing about politics. I voted for independence and Brexit.
yeah.
I'm not even going to go there. I'm not going to go there.
I believe in micromanagement, shallow hierarchy, Tesla, Netflix.
Give me all the contradictions.
Yeah. But I guess the lesson we learned was just, you know, rising above it.
Thick skin.
Yeah, thick skin.
Develop
and
a thick
just,
skin.
And I would say that to any new business, any entrepreneur, you know, you just got to rise above it and take it in your stride and, you know.
Profits in your goalposts.
Yeah, that's it.
Cater for everyone. Disregard your prejudice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you go into a business having your own prejudices, you're fucked.
That's a big no-no.
You're fucked.
It's a big
That's it.
no-no.
You're done.
You know,
Give up.
Plus your preconceptions about people or organisations or
They
business,
have to go out the window.
it's always going to be wrong. If
Yeah.
you make any sort of generalisation about
Yep.
people,
Yep.
you're wrong
Yep.
right from the start.
Yep.
Because the fact is your customers are wide and varied in their beliefs, opinions, so like you said, it's impossible.
Yeah.
You just can't, you know.
Yes, I mean, it's something that we always said when we started. Do I agree with BP's policies? No. Will I build them a website? Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's you know, those two things are separate. I think my partner said that she would leave me when just after Donald Trump got elected. We got a list of names, like a business listings, like names of and there was Ivanka Trump's name against Donald Trump's golf course at the beginning of this list, and I was like, let's give it a shot. See if they need our services.
This was before GDPR, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
This
yeah, before all that.
this
Yeah, no.
European Union are like,
Oh no, they're based.
Telescope
in
you
Europe.
guys.
yeah.
That's a real laugh.
Yeah.
Any more worldly advice for people starting out? So if you could do anything again, what would you do differently? Patents was one.
Yeah, that for me anyway. I think Haseeb as well. That's a big thing. Don't think patents are everything. Don't think it's the be all and end all. Don't be scared to put your product or your service out there, because traction can sometimes be a lot bigger than having protection over something. Just having protection and not taking it anywhere is nothing. Getting it out there and letting people know what you're doing is worth much more.
Yeah, execution is so much more important than idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Haseeb hit on that.
If you think you're just one idea, then you're going to live a very dim life.
How about when, after we won the court case, we took our patent down to a patent licensing firm in London? Do you remember that? What was his name again? Was it Brian or something? And we were hoping to license the patent out to other companies. And again, we realised just because you got a patent doesn't mean shit.
No.
Yeah.
You know, he
Really
was...
hard to enforce as well.
Yeah, and he turned around and he said, well, you've got a patent, great. And he sort of minimised it. And he said, have you got it out there? Have you got exposure? Have you got this? And we were like, no, but we'll get back to you on that. And I guess if we could do that again, we would have put the product out first, got it out, and it would have increased our chances of getting out there quicker and success, I suppose.
I had this sort of philosophy. When I was a DJ, there was a lot of... I'd come across a lot of other DJs that would guard their record collection with their life. I mean, they wouldn't even let you see the name of certain tracks that they were playing. My philosophy was different. At the end of a night, if a DJ had commended my set, I'd say, do you want my CDs? And I'd give them to him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I knew I was more than just one idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
I knew I could just formulate more. And it's having that faith in yourself. If
Yes.
you're an entrepreneur, if you're creative, you're more than just one idea.
But that's the thing. There's an agency from the States that they put out all their business acumen, all their business knowledge out there on the internet for free. And that's the initial thought is, why are you putting all this information out there for other businesses to learn from?
Yep.
But do you want the guy that originated the ideas, or do you want the guy that got it second hand and can't innovate on that idea?
Yes.
Like, I'm even knowing that, I'm more likely to go to the person who came up with the idea,
Yes.
or who put it together in a unique way,
Yes.
like a DJ set,
Yes.
rather than the guy that's just verbatim jacking someone else's style
Yes.
thereafter.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that speaks volumes to the confidence.
And it's like if you're the head of a company, or if you're thinking of starting a business, be confident in your leadership, your vision, you know, because that's priceless, you know. You've got the conviction to go and do it, and somebody's going to copy you. Don't worry about that. You're the one who made it happen.
Yeah.
And remember, overcoming adversity. I mean, you've heard some of the tales we've had to overcome ourselves. That's just part and parcel of it. And especially if you're creating a hardware product where you're creating something completely brand new, there's no blueprint
No.
to what
Exactly.
you're creating. everything's going to go wrong.
Exactly. Everything is going to go wrong.
And on every stage.
Yeah.
So be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And
don't be scared. Don't be scared of it.
And what we learned is we learned to have a sense of humour.
Yeah.
Through it. It's like, oh shit, that fucked up, by the way. Like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen.
And you know, you're thinking about that if you're sitting at home listening to this and you're like, you know, but I want to protect it or I want to do this. It's just, just go with it. Don't be scared. Just put it out there, and that's the best advice. The amount of times
your personal faith in your idea is paramount.
Yes.
I mean, there are members of my family that will not speak to me about my business because they don't want to hear about the delays.
Yeah.
And they don't want to get into the details of it because nobody wants to hear that. They just want to hear positive things.
Yep.
Yeah. But doing this is not always positive. It's constantly negative.
I think that's the part of it that I was most surprised of, is that none of it's positive. There is parts of it, of course there's parts of it that are positive, but the real thing about doing what it is that we've done, or what it is that we're doing, is that you need to be able to experience the negativity of every day and not have it be negative.
Yes.
Because none of it goes the way that you want it to go. Otherwise it would be easy and everyone would do it. But everything always goes wrong.
There's a book out right now, 100% Matthew. There's a book out right now by a professor called Steven Pinker, and it measures, basically the premise of the book is life in the world has got so much better, but because good things don't happen like that, they happen incrementally. It's hard to take stock of where you've come from and what you've done, and that's something that we always struggle with, because day to day you're putting out fires, or somebody needs this, somebody needs that. You're chasing yourself. But it's only when you look back you go, wow, we actually did those targets that we wanted to do. Wow, we're going in the right direction. This is growing. But if you don't stop and reflect on what you're doing, you won't actually see that progress, because good news doesn't happen overnight. It's bad things that happen. Bad things are dramatic. Bad things, you have a story to tell there and then. Good things, like we were able to pay ourselves for the first 2 years, 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. That's not like a newsworthy. You can't tweet about that. You know, like things like that happen over a duration. They don't happen incrementally. Whereas bad things seem to be have a lot more presence than
they impact you way more, don't they? And I think you make a salient point. Haseeb's wife always sort of puts the brakes on us and says, look guys, you know, we'll be having a bad day or this and that will happen, and she goes, but you never celebrate the good. You never stop to look and go, look at the hurdles you've came across, look at that task that seemed impossible, yet here you are and you've cracked it. And I think that is really important, and we're guilty of not embracing that more.
Yeah, we should be. I mean, whenever something positive happens, we're like, oh yeah, we've got to have dinner or go have drinks, something like that. But it doesn't end up materializing, and we're just focusing on the next thing. Like saying, no, we need to do that next thing before we can.
Which is good, in a sense, but I guess you got to try and balance the good with the bad.
I fucking hate that culture. I hate it. I hate all of it. I'm going to be honest, like, that's it.
Spanner in the works.
it's all coming out. I'm like that. Shit. What was he about to say? Fuck.
And this is where we cut it, guys. No, I hate it. I hate all of it. All of the shit that I heard since we started doing this. Everybody, and obviously everybody's not, but I'm going extreme here. Everybody is fucking lying all of the time. None of it is true. Nobody tells you the shit that's actually going on, and everybody pretends that they didn't have a terrible experience doing this, that it was a real easy ride. So when you start out in this, everybody's saying to you, just be positive, man. It's going to work out for the best. Oh, don't worry about that. Don't worry at all. It's all good. No, it's not all good, because I can't feed myself. I can't afford rent. I don't know what I'm doing. This is a huge problem, and nobody talks about the shit things that happen. Everybody is so convinced that pretending, like people weren't obsessed with Steve Jobs because of the successes he had after he died. They were obsessed with him because of the shit that he did wrong, the mistakes he made, the problems that he had, because that's the truth of it.
Yes.
The iPhone didn't happen overnight. It wasn't his singular success. For him, the singular success was the first computer he ever released. It was, starting the company. It was meeting the right guys. Those were successes. But all the stuff that they talk about, that they don't talk about.
The fact that he get fired from his own company. Could you imagine being fired from? That takes a different type of person to rebound from that and come back to be Steve Jobs that we all know. You know, like to get fired from your company that you started.
And I think you inject a healthy dose of reality.
Because and that it leads me back to eSpark. eSpark, this like positive, go do, everything's going to be handy dandy, you just need to stay positive. I think you're totally right, Matt. I think injecting a bit of, look, you're going to come across and but entrepreneurs are always like,
I'll tell you,
it'll be all good.
I'll tell you why we're lying to each other, and then I'll tell you what we can do about it. So the reason that everybody, I don't know if this happens where you work, when we encounter our business owners or agency owners, it's always the same. It's, oh yeah, we're really busy, but oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. We do we have a great time. But really, so and so in accounting has been a total dick. So and so in the team has left and hasn't come back. This project's going to suffer. It's stressful. And it's stressful for everybody that runs a business. And what is it, 80 or 90% of businesses in Scotland are all small businesses, less than 50. So every business owner that you run into has had a similar experience to yourself. But the problem is that people are worried about, if they come across honest, that the perception is that the business isn't doing well or that the business has problems. But everybody has problems. Doesn't matter if you're the owner, the guy that does the coffees in the mornings, whatever else. Nobody wants to hear that, because everybody recognises that their life is tough enough. So when you speak to somebody, they don't want to tell you. They don't want to hear your problems because they've got their own problems. And two, they don't want to tell you that it's a problem for them, because everybody understands that that's what life is, that's what work is. The benefit for us is that we have, like you've taken a technology that your father built, and it's very important to you, and you've got a direction, you've got a value behind what you do. The same for us. We started this because this is what we want to do, so it means more to us. So we're willing to put up with all the shit and the good, because we know that the direction is good. But for other, I know for other directors of businesses, they just don't want to show you the cracks because they don't want to seem vulnerable. But we all know that that's bollocks. We all know that's bollocks.
And do you know, pertinent to your point, only recently, and I admit this, within the last few weeks, when my cousin or a family member says, how's it going? And it's only recently I've been like, you know what, things could be better. And it was such a relief, just to say, like, I guess being honest with yourself, and just sort of going, it could be better, I need to do this better, and I think that's a critical component, Nana. I really do.
I really honestly believe. So we used to, so when you do design or any sort of anything creative, the temptation, because your clients will ask for it, is to do everything within creative. So our background is design and development. That's what we're shit hot at. That's our bag and bones. But clients will ask you for marketing, they'll ask you for social media, they'll ask you for branding. And so we did that. We brought in somebody that could do branding, that could do graphic design. But that's not what our focus is. And I think something that, if I could stress to anybody that starts their own business, is stay true to your core principles of who you are and what you're about, because in the hard moments it'll be so much easier to get through that, and in the shit moments you won't be thinking, why the fuck am I doing this? You'll be thinking, this is what I've chose to do. I will take that burden on. And I think it's so important that people tell the truth and they're honest with themselves, with their team, with their clients. Like, tell them the truth.
Strengthens your conviction.
Absolutely.
It's a goddamn lie, is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, no, I've always despised the whole concept of that, of telling people that it's different from what it is, because it's not. Like, you're not. If I wanted to have a stable income and I wanted to have a normal life, I would get a job.
Yes.
That's what I would do.
Yes.
So telling me that starting a business is better than getting a job, it's you're gonna have a better life. No, you're not. you're gonna be my age with all your friends putting big giant rocks in their girlfriend's fingers, and buying houses and going on 2 holidays a year, and having a dog, all that stuff. Well, you're still renting an apartment, not taking holidays, and driving a shitty car that you don't want to drive because that's what you can afford to drive. But you're not doing it for, you're doing it for different reasons. So telling everybody that lie that companies like eSpark perpetuate, which is that business is easy and everyone can do it, is a fucking lie.
Yes.
And no, they can't, and that's okay.
That's okay.
That's all right.
It's okay.
That's okay. But I just know I don't like it. I've never liked it.
People are prepared for that.
It's by lying that you don't prepare people for it.
Yeah, exactly.
The people don't know that when this happens, they think that they're the only ones that are suffering like this, and that's just not true.
It's just not
Everyone's suffering like this.
It was actually quite. I was at a kind of startup meetup recently, and this guy I got talking to said, "So what's your business?" He said, "No, I actually don't have a business. I'm a behavioural therapist." I went, "All right, well, what are you studying?" He went, "Well, entrepreneurs." I went, "Well, what is it about entrepreneurs?" He goes, "Well, it's the overconfidence, overestimation that entrepreneurs have of themselves.
That we know.
Then they don't achieve that, and then they beat themselves up over it, sometimes often dropping the business that they were doing as a result of that." And I thought I can actually relate to that a lot.
I think a lot of people couldn't they?
Because when you're an ideas man, you have something in your head and you're like, that's fucking gold, you know, and you can only see one outcome for it. And then it's when you actually put it into practice, you realise, well, actually this and this could have went wrong, and you hadn't had the foresight for that because you thought,
it was going to go plain sailing.
Yeah, a bit of ego comes into it. It's my idea. Yeah, it's going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
But then when you put it into practice,
It's not.
It's not. It's not. It's real.
But that doesn't mean that it's dead.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't mean it's dead.
It doesn't mean that it's dead. It just means that it's not what you
optimized.
Originally thought it was going to be. It's not perfect. But what is perfect? When have you ever made something? When have you ever made food and it's turned out perfect?
Exactly. When does anything in life?
Goddamn pot noodle isn't perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes 3 or 4 tries of shit before you get the consistency. Just
and nothing in life is ever perfect. So if you think going into a business because you got a great idea is going to go like from A to fucking Z straight away, drop that. But you know what? It's about embracing the negativity. It's about embracing everything, and you know what? If you do that, I'm confident you'll come out the other end successfully.
I mean, I went to watch a speaker, Mark Beaumont. He cycled around the world he cycled around the world in 80 days, and
it's a world record, isn't it?
World record. He smashed the previous world record. And I think one of the last things he said, what made him stand out from all the other people that had attempted the record, was his ability to suffer. And that's part of being an entrepreneur. Are you willing to take all of these defeats and kicks in the faces and suffering to make it?
It is suffering.
Suffering.
Not to
play the violin.
No. I was going to say not to pat myself on the back.
It's the opposite.
Always positive. I think when you go into any venture, whether it's going to the gym or playing an instrument or starting a business or whatever the endeavour is, you've got to think about what's the worst case scenario here. What, like, I start a business and I totally royally fuck it up. And all of my friends and family and people that I associates that I meet know that I'm a total fuck up. Can you accept that? Can you just think about what that would feel like? And sit in that for a while and go, would that crush me? And if the answer is no, I can deal with that, then you're invincible. Absolutely invincible. You need to walk. we've learned that I mean, we came into this pretty naive about how easy it would be. I'm sure you're the same. You think
a common trait amongst entrepreneurs.
exactly. You think this is so compelling that you're going to buy this all day, and then the first few rejections you get because everybody experiences that can't kill you. You know, you need to be able to say to yourself, I know why I'm doing this, and I believe in this. 1,000 no's and a yes is still a yes.
Yes. That was.
So you need to like, if I could go back, that's the only thing I would tell myself is be enthusiastic, but realize that it's not always going to be sunshine. You know, and everybody needs. I think everyone that's in business that's got the experience knows that, but that's not something that they say to you. Never. Never.
Yeah. There's only few and far between who will, like you said, when people get successful, they tell of their success. But few and far between will tell their story of negativity, suffering, of what they had to go through to get to that point of positivity.
I maybe just tell everyone that. I'm starting. Oh, how's it going, Matt? Oh, for fuck's sake. Let me tell you. What a nightmare. But it feels so much more rewarding if you tell somebody, like if you see somebody and you say, how's the business, Matt? I go, it's not going so good. We're struggling. We're not making enough. We're not finding enough clients. It's tough. I find it hard. And then they go, oh man, that's difficult. Nobody knows what to say to that. But it's at least that you're telling them, right? And then the next time you see them, oh, how's the business, Matt? We really picked up from that point. Things are great. Things are really good now. We're bringing people on. We're doing this. That reality validates the hard work that you did. Whereas if I say to you in a lie and I go, oh no, it's fucking great, mate. Everything's top notch. And then the next time I see you, oh, still fucking great, mate. Everything's top notch.
It's even
better. You're just constantly raising this invisible bar of bullshit.
And
instead of just being like
lying to yourself.
Lying to yourself. Lying to everyone else.
And then
Be realistic.
Goes and quits his job and starts a business. And makes
Yeah.
Oh, it was easy. Oh, he said it was easy.
Nah, you said this was no problem. Anyone could do it. A monkey.
Oh, into a wee secret here. It's solid. It's so hard, you know. Like, don't do it. Did you quit your job already? Oh well.
You get paid a salary every month. Keep it.
Totally. That's it. I keep saying safe words quietly to myself. It keeps torturing me. But that's it. When you were going back to the bit about Scotland and technology businesses and like finding support for it, is that I think that we have this in Scotland. We have this culture of we're telling people, go and be an entrepreneur, start a business, it's the best thing you could do, and we tell them all this shit, and then that's where it stops. Like right after that point, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. Nobody knows how to get real money into the pockets of people who have got ideas. Nobody knows how to import and export the way that they need to be able to work in a global market.
To spend their money, do they need a patent? Do they not? I guess they just tell them that, go and be an entrepreneur, and then they think the expectations are built in. They know what's going to happen, but they just don't.
I'm not saying there's not great programs out there. There probably is that I'm not privy to, that I've not been a part of. In fact, I know that there's some really great entrepreneurial programs in a lot of primary and high schools in Edinburgh and Glasgow. They're really, really good, really strong programs. But then there's the rest of it, and the rest of it's just. It's the equivalent in my mind to a living version of a bullshit Instagram post that says you can be whatever you want to be, you know. And if you lived your life by that Instagram post, my friend, you're fucked. And that's
the funniest thing is they get the most shares, don't they?
They
the most
do.
likes, and the least people probably
From
back
people.
it up.
Yeah,
it's always the worst. It's always the worst stuff that these things have on them, and then people love it.
Yeah.
But it's that sugar, you know. It's that everybody loves that dose of sugar, and nobody wants to, give you the spice.
Yeah, we need that spice.
Do you know what I think? If eSpark injected that dose of reality, they probably wouldn't have collapsed and went under RBS. You know, just that reality. This is what's going to happen. You know, embrace it and good luck. You know.
Yeah. I think eSpark were good for building a company from 1 to 5 years, but beyond that,
no.
They weren't, and that's why East Park didn't go longer than 5 years.
Yeah.
In Glasgow, anyway.
Edinburgh. Excuse me,
Yeah,
guys.
sorry,
Edinburgh.
gentlemen, we've done 2 hours.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep going? It's up to you. We cap it at 3, so it's really up to you if you want to keep going.
Easy, not for you.
Yeah. Continue. Sorry, East Park.
And you look, you compare East Park and Edinburgh, you have a turnover of £1 million a year. With Glasgow, you have a turnover of £20,000. Sorry. I got that wrong. £1 million turnover a month. Edinburgh, East Park. FinTech.
Yeah, absolutely.
Country capital. Then you've got East Park in Glasgow. 1 month turnover, £20,000. It's such a huge difference, and that's one of the reasons why it did close.
Yeah. I don't disbelieve that for a second. It's so strange to me that obviously Edinburgh's the capital and they have all the unicorns. They have FanDuel, they have Skyscanner, they have Amazon, I think they have a few others, Rockstar, I mean big tech companies, and we're not that far away. We're 40 minutes away in a train, yet the culture of startups and the money that flows through the cities is so disparate, like so uncomparable, and I can't really put my finger on why that is, because there are tons of startups in Glasgow and there are tons of startups in Edinburgh, but the culture in Edinburgh is where the money's at. I don't know whether it's because they have a track record of producing, products and services that can compete in a global market. I can't really put my finger on that.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a couple of, like you say, unicorns. They've got a Skyscanner, and this guy at Skyscanner is very proactive in the startup scene in Edinburgh, and they're providing a lot of assistance for Edinburgh companies. We don't have those sort of big names in Glasgow that are proactive in the scene, helping other businesses. Not that I can think of.
I mean, a lot of people talk about the east-west divide, and it's only ever in Edinburgh that I hear about that. So it seems to me like Glasgow has everything else over Edinburgh. Shopping, culture, football, any sport, name it. Nightlife, exactly. We have everything. Glasgow has everything over Edinburgh, but when it comes to business and when it comes to startups, it's true. It's 100% true.
Absolutely is.
The backing, I don't want to downplay it, but to get invested in Edinburgh as opposed to getting invested in Glasgow, I mean, people here can't spend the money or are reluctant to spend the money, but in Edinburgh, all sorts of businesses get funded, and I can't work out whether it's because it's the capital and because, like you said, we've got the unicorns that have Skyscanner, Rockstar, all these big companies that have FanDuel that have done it over there. That's why they're seen as the epicenter of business.
It's the capital status. That's it. It's got to be that. I mean, if you don't think about the UK and you think about Europe, what's the second largest city in France? None or that. What's the second largest city in Italy after the capital?
Milan.
I don't know, maybe Milan. Good possibility.
Who knows?
Probably.
Turin.
I would assume that Munich was the next largest city to Berlin in Germany, but is it by population? Is it by output? So if you're an investor in Europe and you're going to invest in Scotland, you're going to go to Edinburgh. Mm-hmm. It's not that you don't want to go to Glasgow. It's not that Glasgow's not got good shit. Yeah. But we're not the capital. Yeah. We might be more in population. We might be a massively better, more enjoyable place to live.
Fucking, it's true. I love the look. Every time I go to Edinburgh, I'm struck by how clean it is. Yeah. I'm like, wow, their junkies have suits. Every time I'm like, wow, this place. Yep. It feels. I don't know.
It feels like a European city.
It does feel like a European city.
Very much.
Glasgow is obviously grimier, but it's got
its charm, it's got its culture.
Glasgow's like a train stop on the way from the airport to the city you're going to. Like, I'm sure if you got off, you're going to have a fucking great time. But nobody knows to get off.
Yeah, it's
nobody
really
knows
difficult. It's really difficult for businesses for here.
No, it is.
And
it sucks because there's a lot of there's great businesses here, there's great opportunity here, but it's not Edinburgh, and that's the struggle with it. It's trying to raise the profile of it, and you've got a government that isn't. It's not that they don't want to raise the profile, but what's the benefit to raise the profile of Glasgow?
Yeah.
Well,
one of the kind of things that we experienced going from a grandiose idea of the display that was for any retail shopfront business to an LED flag was we weren't getting the interest from investors and from companies and from institutions like Scottish Edge who were very much behind us when we were doing the board. And then in our most recent application, they didn't even give us any positive feedback in our application, which was quite heartbreaking. Really, and kind of off-putting almost to an extent.
So this was in Edinburgh and Glasgow, did you say?
Oh, good. So we originally went to Edge with our large board that we spoke about, and that got to the next round, stage, and half the panel were like, they could see the vision, and then fast forward we went to Edge with
the
LED flag.
And they were like, well, if someone else buys into it, then we'll buy into it, but let us know if someone else buys into it first. Sort of thing, yeah. It just turned out the timings of everything. We were just about to launch the company as we'd put the application in, so we couldn't show them any traction. It was just the timing. But it's one of the challenges you face when you've got a great idea, and it doesn't matter if you have the means and the capabilities to execute that idea.
No.
People are willing to stand behind you.
It
doesn't matter. But whereas we've got maybe not as good an idea, but we've got the capabilities and execution to pull it off, times two. But no one's willing to stand behind you because they don't believe in the idea. It's like a rock and a hard place.
Is this what it was?
And it actually really frustrated me because I went to Shenzhen and I saw the culture there, and it is just like it is in America. America, if you've had a startup and it's failed, and you've had another startup and it's failed, they're more willing to back you. Than it is if it's your first startup. And they're the same in China. They're backing.
That's the thing about Glasgow. I'm not going to name names about Scotland. I'm not naming names, but if you go back in the podcast, you'll hear the names being mentioned. But the names that you mentioned when you started out with your first product are the same fucking names I hear today. There's nothing new. There's nothing happened. There's no massive difference happened. It's the same people, and that's not a bad thing. But we're sold by this sure thing idea. It's like these same guys that it seems to be getting traction. So then the companies that got them there, all they want to do is talk about those companies rather than focus on new companies coming in. It's like, look how good we did 5 years ago with these companies. But not you, fuck off. It's that new idea, fuck off.
Is it not almost
enough for you?
Have they not almost got the psychology that we spoke about, where they want to embrace the positivity only? And isn't it? It just sounds like they just don't want to hear, like, oh, look at us, we done this and we got this business. It's like, take a punt, because you don't know what business, even if they've been through the negatives,
Even if there's a whiff of success in a startup, companies over here just swarm on them. It's like, oh, we help startups and we help startups and we help startups. And this one startup has done something good. They haven't proven themselves, but they've done something of note. Everybody will just dive all over them as if we're the ones that helped you get here, when really you're late to the game.
But they don't want to really help them.
There was an initiative. There was an initiative in Glasgow. I don't know if it was a national thing, but it was like, if you project your turnover to be 500,000 within 3 years, they will give you something towards staffing and give you some grants. And it's like, what startup business can give you accurate predictions of 500,000 turnover? If they were projecting 500,000 turnover, they wouldn't need your shitty £2,000 loan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that So like I do not envy people like yourself, like in this startup game where it's a product and you're business to consumer.
Yes.
We're business to business, and business understand the value of what we're proposing.
Yeah.
So we don't have to think about grants and being on. We don't need. We're a service, so why would we be on Entrepreneur Spark? Why would we be on anything like that?
Yeah.
Whereas for a product, you need that exposure.
Yeah.
And a lot of these organisations will only back you once you start kicking ass and taking names. When it's like, no, I need you now to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they want you to be a success before they start to talk to you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're not interested. I'm not gonna. No, I'm gonna.
No, don't. Yeah. Please don't.
Do it.
Please don't. I'm attached to this company. Please don't.
The company that you see on the sides of buses to tell you to go and speak to them about business help. All right, everybody knows who that business is. A gateway, perhaps. Yeah. Right to the business world. Some might say. Okay. I got in touch with them when we were looking to hire first members of staff. Right. So we'd been through the shit. We'd been through the tough, like real world growing a business, and then all of a sudden we're hiring people. We're at that point now where we're actually providing jobs. Right, we're doing what we essentially started out to do, which was contribute and be a part of like the Scottish economy in a real way. And I don't know how to employ people. Right, I've never done it before. I don't have anybody else I can talk to. So I go to this company, and I email them. I give them a call. I say, can I get an advisor? I've never had an advisor, so can I get some help, because I need to know how I get an employment contract. I need to know what I'm not thinking about. I don't know what I'm doing here. And they're like, yeah, okay, we'll get somebody to email you. So they email me, and it's a guy that says to me in this email, what's your 3-year projections? Have you been with us before? And what do you need from us? Those are the 3 questions. So the first one straight away is 3 years projections. Why the fuck do you need to know my 3-year projections? Like, I spoke to somebody on the phone and said, I want help with employment. So why do you need to know what my 3-year projections are? What's that important to me growing the business that you're supposed to help me grow? So I never responded to him. I was like, no, fuck that. I'll just go and call a lawyer. It'll be easier to do it that way. I'll just pay for it. That's what it is. And then a week or so later, I get a how was your experience email.
Wow.
So they were looking for me to fill out a survey on how good my experience was working with them.
Did they have a rating for shit?
There was no way legally I could have written what I wanted to write in that survey.
What I don't understand, right, is that the majority of our economy is based of small businesses.
Yeah.
So how is our business support so diarrhea?
No.
Like, if we were like, right, let's start an organisation to help small businesses, within a week we could have a better organisations than the ones that exist.
Yep.
So what is going on there? How is that possible?
What's turnover got to do with if you're looking for staff? It's got nothing to do with...
The thing of it is, it's a fucking fictitious number.
Nothing.
Like, it's literally... It doesn't mean anything. Like, they don't...
Like, what were we going to base this on last year? We're going to do more than last year, but do we know how much that we're going to do more than last year?
Yeah, but what surprises me is you're in a position to get staff, therefore you're asking for help to get staff. It's not like you're saying, oh, we're a startup, we don't have any revenue, and we might need staff. You're saying, I've grown my business, I'm looking for support.
I'm about to shit the bed if we don't get staff.
Importantly, we spoke about this earlier on, you're admitting where you know you're not up to scratch. Yeah. That takes a big step.
But I thought that's the point of these organisations. Instead of get what's your turnover? What do you mean, what's my turnover? What goddamn interest is that of anyone?
Maybe they should explain themselves.
To figure out where you are in the hierarchy of
importance.
They want to know if you can mark me as spam.
Oh, sorry, you're expecting £2 million turnover and you don't have staff. Like, clearly that's not the case. That's so daft.
I guess tying that in when you were talking about the culture of thinking, businesses, and spoke about America and things. America are willing to just, okay, it's got its negatives, but they're willing to chuck money at an opportunity if they see a glimpse of opportunity. Just here, like you said, what's your turnover? It's like
there are so many hoops you need to jump through. We gave up. Oh,
It's
we
not.
gave up.
See,
Yeah.
let's be honest, right? The amount that you win in these competitions is fuck all.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things,
In the
100k, right? Let's just say if like you were the successful and the most like return of investment in these things, 100k isn't much. 100k doesn't do very much for you, and the amount of time it takes you to get all the way through that process, do all of the promotion stuff, it always feels to me like it's one of those things where the company that's organising it benefits more than the company that wins it.
Yeah.
Because they get the promotion, they get to say that we were a part of this when the company is successful, or if they're successful.
They get to claim success for that company's further success, even though that money they gave them is so abstract by that point. Like you think of the companies that have gone on from the competitions that we spoke about, that 100k they probably burned in R&D and staff and lawyers in the first year. So
And they needed more, yeah.
We know a couple of companies that I'm not going to name them, but like, go to these competitions, get the money, burn through it, make up figures, and then they're just back at square one. You're just like,
well, there's an argument to be made that the American system and that isn't necessarily the best way of doing it. There's got to be a middle ground. I don't know what that is. I'm not the one that's best to say whether or not there's a better way to do it. But I think that we are too harsh, we're too stringent, and the Americans are maybe just a little bit too given.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of businesses in the States.
Unicorns.
I know a few. Well, there's unicorns, but there's also a ton of businesses, and I know guys that run these businesses where they've never made a penny, but they just keep getting investment. So their businesses float entirely on the investment they receive from investors, but they've never monetized their product.
Yes.
So the product could be great, but they've never felt the burn of we need to make money off of this thing.
Twitter was an example of that.
Twitter's a goddamn perfect example.
How long
Snapchat.
How long was Twitter around before they started advertising? So what the fuck were they doing before they started advertising? Because they're not making any money, and even now they don't make any money.
And even when they came to the stock market, like you said, they still don't make
Instagram was bought for £1 billion before they
started monetizing it.
Yeah. So I mean, there's an argument to be made for those companies because they're anomalies and they're like culturally significant.
Yes.
But you get like, it's the thing, right? You go to the Champions League of football, it's all the fucking best players, Messi, Ronaldo, the best, the absolute best. Who knows what's going on at second and third level? The companies that are like Twitter but don't make any money, and we know a ton, like good ideas, but like how are you going to monetize that? And where are they in 3 years? Nowhere. If they're, I'm always like, when someone has a tech startup and they're still around in 3 to 5 years, I'm always so impressed by that. Because how are you making the money? And if it's not coming from investment, how are you making the money? And it's something that I think in Scotland we can't see the big picture. We can only see the immediate. And in America they go,
too much big picture.
Revenue is not what's important. Eyeballs and attention is what's important.
We're extremely pessimistic, and that's that. I think every single person we've ever had on the podcast, we've come to that conclusion somewhere or another. Scotland can be pessimistic at times. Scottish people can be pessimistic at times, but Nana mentioned it earlier on, and it's something that's been said to me and Nana since the day we started this goddamn business. And honestly, hearing it grinds my gears. But people telling me that the market that I work in is saturated. Saturated against what? Saturated to what level? Is it saturated in Scotland? Is it saturated in the UK? In Europe? In the US? Like where? Like what's your what's your classification of saturation? Because everything's saturated somewhere.
It's almost like another wall of negativity.
It's just like, why are you saying this to me?
It's like another wall of negativity.
Like we work in technology on the internet. The internet has been around since 1994, 1996. So this is like going to someone that mines gold in the gold rush and saying to them, there's a lot of gold miners out there. It's really fucking saturated. Can you name a trade or a business where it makes money and there isn't a lot of them? Does anyone ever say, you're a plumber? There's a lot of fucking plumbers out there. You're a nurse? There must be a lot of competition in being a nurse.
You said it earlier. If you get 1,000 no's and you get a yes, it's worth it.
Yes.
Now, if you're talking about a business or a service that has a global market, 1 of 1,000 is enough.
Yes, exactly.
That doesn't bother me so much because I know they just don't understand that.
Yeah.
You know, it's more the fact of why are we so pessimistic about everything?
Yeah.
Like, not to get into independence, but like we have the ability to sell oil,
Yes.
and a lot of people were like, "Can we sell oil? Though? Can we? What the thing that we
Who's
can
going to buy our oil?
Whilst the Saudis are like this. What? What was that? I can't hear you. Over the sound of my cash machine counting the oil money. And we were like that. Oh, I don't know, Jane. Can we count the money? I don't know. I don't know what that's. I don't know whether that's indicative of just the Calvinistic Scottish culture that we have, or whether that's based on something else.
I think that's just. I think people. I think it's an evolutionary psychology thing. Right? I know we're going way off now, right? But I think it's just people are negative. They just. You have an idea, you have a business, you have a thought, you have something. See if it's just against the grain slightly, you're just going to get a wall straight away. I think that's just life, you know, and it's maybe training your psyche to not take that as a like, all right, you know, and
Like I can imagine when you started this business, from your friends and your family, you had a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't know about that. It's really rushy. It's really rushy. It's really risky.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really risky doing that. Oh, I don't know. Blah blah blah." Like, and it's coming from a genuine place of care. These people care
they're
about
not
you.
being mean,
They
no.
don't. They're not like that. Sandeep, you're a dick. Why are you trying to start a business? What experience do you have? Show me your CV. It's more. They are uncertain about whether they could do it or whether they think you could do it. But where does that come from? Because every business is made up.
does that closed wall of thought separate the entrepreneurs from the normal man? Should they call it that? You know,
The normal man.
Because like you said earlier on, if everybody had the great idea, if they want to execute it, then we'd all be entrepreneurs, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
But like Matt was saying earlier,
Maybe it takes a certain psyche to.
it's fucking terrifying. I guess that's the point. Like most people, like I don't know. Like if you've probably done things in your life that's maybe not business, but like a marathon or some sort of physical event, boxing, whatever, where there's an element of I need to step across a lane that I'm not comfortable with, and it's risky over this lane. So some people don't take that chance.
Yes.
And that to me, that would drive me crazy.
Yes.
I've had a business before and it's failed, and it didn't stop me from starting another business. I was like, I have this idea and it's taken up all my time.
I
and all my thoughts.
remember you came up with Find a Player before Find a Player existed.
Yeah.
Which are a multi-million-pound business.
I know.
So, and could we grind it down to that little thing that you've just mentioned, where you're like, you know, the person doesn't do the marathon, does that? How would you describe that essence? That
It bothers me because sometimes I think I'm the one that's crazy because
but maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
A little bit crazy.
A little bit of crazy.
I have an idea. Like I wake up and I go, I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to run a half marathon, and I've never done it before, and I don't know where to start. And most people at that point would go, "What? I'm not a runner. I've never been good at running. I've never been good at this. I've never been good at that." And I go, "How can I make that happen?"
Yeah.
And then I try and figure it out, and it obsesses me. So this business, like we started, and we had the technical skills, but did we have the business acumen? Did we know how to put those connections together? No. And we just had to figure that out. And I think that's the point where most people would say, I can't do that. I can't do that. And I think for Matt and I, and probably for yourself, we're like, how do we do that?
Yes.
How do we do that?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
Who do we need to know? How do we put it together?
Yeah.
And then that's what occupies your time.
Is it not being scared of those questions? Is it how do I do that? How do I get to where I want to be? Is it not being people get scared and they just like shut off and they're like, you know what, too much work?
I've always assumed that people don't like to ask themselves those questions. It's like here we go. Strap yourself in. Right. It's like the question about death, right? Like a lot of people don't think ever about the fact that they're going to die, and therefore that their time's finite and that they need to use the time to the best of their ability.
Yes.
And I always think about it, I have a fear of flying, and I sometimes wonder if the reason why I have a fear of flying is because I think a little bit differently from some people in the way that I think about flying. Is that some people just get on the plane and accept that the plane's going to go from A to B, right? That's how they live their life. Whereas I think if I get onto this plane, there's a good possibility that it's going to explode in the sky and it's going to kill me, and therefore I'll be dead. But I still get on the plane. So there's a little bit of a difference there in my thinking to get onto the plane from everybody else, but it makes that decision and the way that I've thought about that decision different. And it's the same with the business, is that some people choose to get on to the entrepreneurship bus, not really thinking about it. They fuck up, they fail, and that's that, and they give up on it. Or they get onto it and they think about all the things that could go wrong, they think about how they could do it better, they reiterate on it, they make the decisions that they need to, and they keep going with it. Even though they know what the possibility is, the problems could be.
There's an interesting dichotomy there. So, like, you know, you're saying the fear of flying, and then you don't embrace, but then here you are, an entrepreneur, where you on another subject, you embrace the questions, you embrace the fears.
No, it's a funny thing. But I don't think a lot of people. I think that the difference between an entrepreneur and somebody who's not an entrepreneur is simply the ability to recognise that the path isn't set. It doesn't need to be set, and you have control over it. You have control over a situation. I think a lot of people accept the cards they're dealt in life. I think particularly our parents' generation more so as well. Like, you'll hear them say, "Don't do that because the safe bet is to like get a job, have a house and have a kid and all that sort of thing," which is fine, and there's nothing wrong with that, absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there's something inside, obviously all four of our heads, where we went, I'm going to have that, but what about this? What about if we do this? And it's going to be painful, and I know it's going to be painful, and I'm probably going to do a lot of, like, I'm pretty certain that my fiance would much rather that we were living in a house already and that we had kids and that she had a big old rock on her finger. 100% certain of that. But she and I both made the decision that this is worth it, the pain's worth it to get to the end point, whatever that may be, and we're not just going to accept whatever life gives us and therefore have the life that life gives us.
I think dead on, and I think people make the mistake of thinking that we're brave.
Fuck no, we're not.
Like, and I mean in the sense of that we're fearless, but clearly we're not fearless. But it's acting in spite of fear that makes you courageous. So people say to, like, not to name names, right? But people always say, "Oh, you must be dead brave," you know, like just going out there and doing it on your own and just making a way of it and not knowing the future. That's brave. That's really brave. But see, the alternative to that terrifies me. So like I've had jobs, really well-paying jobs in finance that I just couldn't stand. I just didn't like the fact that it was predefined for me and that the ceiling was set and I couldn't get away from that. And I couldn't follow what interested me. And I think for some people, they have to make that trade at some point. If it doesn't happen early, it happens late. And when it happens late, they have a midlife crisis about it. Whereas for me, I'm like, this fucking sucks. This really sucks. It's so tough. Why did nobody tell me it was so tough? But the alternative to that is so unbearable in my mind that I can't even consider not doing that.
It's like paying a mortgage.
At least you get something from mortgage. With a career that you didn't pick, that someone else picked because it was a safe bet, that just terrifies me. Even thinking about it, I'm getting a little bit sweaty. Like, I'd rather not know where the next paycheck's coming from. Like,
I'm completely. You never want to say these things too abrasively, because 98% of the population follows the path that we didn't follow, and that's. We say these things, but I genuinely, what Nana's just said is exactly how I feel about it. I find that the people that put their lives, their whole fucking life, in somebody else's hand are braver than I am, Because I get up in the morning and I make decisions, and if I fuck up those decisions, then I suffer for those decisions. Yes. And if I do good, if I do something right, then I get good for that. You know, like all the things, everything I do every day defines how well or how poorly I'm going to do. Sometimes there's external influences that I can't control. Sometimes things happen by accident. But regardless, I have control over it.
Yep.
The idea of me chucking all this and then getting a job where I go in and somebody else defines how much money I'm going to make, what hours I'm going to work, when I'm going to see my family. Well, you're not working this weekend. You're working this weekend because I need you to work this weekend. And if you don't, well, you know, there's
someone else.
Yeah, there's someone else who will do your job for you. That scares the shit out of me.
I think that's spot on, to be honest. I think that's...
But some people are able to just get on the plane.
Sure, honestly, I'm not putting that down, because there's been moments, and you'll be the same, where you're like that, man, I could just get a salary and not have to deal with all this pressure and this stress and the angst of every day. But when I weigh them up, it's always, I want to do this. I've decided to do this.
Do you know what? You're right. Like, ain't got a fancy car, need to make ends meet, but I wouldn't trade it.
No, I knew that.
But you know, through the suffering and the glory of certain journey points, you know what? Fuck it.
The last employed job I had was the only job I'd ever do, and that was delivering pizzas on a scooter. By far the best job ever. But it's good knowing that I could go back to that and be happy.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing. That's an important point. See, if you fuck up royally, your product fucks up, one of you dies in a fucking plane crash, and you can't, someone sues
Which
you.
Which happens, by the way. In case people don't know the statistics of plane crashes.
Somebody sues you into oblivion, and for whatever reason, God wills it, you can't work, you can't do the thing that you're doing, you can always get a job.
Yes.
Like, we are so blessed and so lucky that that's always an option.
Yeah.
Look at the skills that you have. Like, you're telling me you couldn't get a job.
Yeah.
I don't believe that for a second.
That thought you have, it's funny that, because I think about that, you know, I'm like, you know, I could get a job, and look at the skills me and Haseeb have got now. Yeah. Supply chain sourcing, R&D, patent law, just like, you don't learn this stuff. No, you don't learn this stuff, but it's funny because knowing that, it pushes me more to want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how many people can say the worst case scenario is that I end up with a really good job?
Yeah.
That's a pretty sweet place to be.
If someone comes and say, I'll buy you out, you say, okay, you need to buy me as well.
Yeah.
You're head of R&D.
Yeah.
I mean, that's happened to us on a couple of occasions. Other companies have said, oh, I really like what you do, do you want to come work for us? You just work internally, you just come working out. Like, it's always like, you get to be yourself. Just contract for us.
I won't tell you to work at the weekend. Don't worry about it.
Just come sit in our nice leather.
Do you want Friday off? Ask me.
But it's not appealing to me at all. Not at all.
Nah.
Like, with a business like ours, we're lucky we can scale up, we can scale down.
Yeah.
Matt could do this from his bedroom if he really wanted to. You don't need a big office. You don't need all the fancy stuff. You don't need that. So we're in a position where this is what we want to do, and we're going to stick at it as long as it's humanly possible.
Yeah, and ultimately it's you embracing the risk or somebody buying you out, and they embracing your mistakes, isn't it?
The only thing that you do by getting a job with someone in Scotland is you put a veil up.
Yeah.
You don't get to see the directors running about going, Jesus, we need £100,000 or none of the staff are getting paid. You don't see him taking lines off his desk going, what am I going to do? It's like the operations manager runs in and he slaps him like, what's going on? You get a grip. You don't see any of that because you've decided. And honestly, I'm not putting that down because I understand that. Mm-hmm. And there's been times in the past where both of us have thought, what are we doing this? Yeah. Why are we doing this? Yeah. This is so much pain for what? Yeah. But it's definitely worth it, 100%.
Yes.
100% it's worth it.
I think we've reached a point where we're completely sedated.
From the
there's
pain.
Nothing bad that could happen. That would be enough to go, fuck it. Let's not do this anymore.
Right.
That's a good. Like, see when it no longer becomes an option.
Yeah.
That was my favourite moment. That wasn't long ago for us either.
Yeah.
Maybe just less than a year ago, maybe. Just after we moved in here, just before we moved in here into this office.
Mm-hmm. You got
there was
to a point where
there was a point where everything that could go wrong, everything that could go wrong went wrong, and it was horrible. And it was just as we were making decisions, like there was just horrific tax bill that got landed in our lap from fucking stupid decisions that we'd made. We were moving into this space, we were taking on a larger rent agreement, and we'd already let go of our smaller office, so it wasn't like we could go, oh no, never mind, actually let's just stay here. We were losing people, we'd lost, there was just problems, and these things happen, and that's okay. But I remember there was a point just when all of that was happening where I felt dead inside, and it was like tranquil. It was like, oh well, here we go.
I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Not
And then
a problem.
you just show up to work and you're like, oh, what do we do now? Let's just fix this.
Yeah. And did you like, because you have obviously business partners as me and Haseeb are, was there points where one of you were feeling more, or then the other one had to be like, look, fuck it, and you sort of. Because we like there'll be times where Haseeb will say to me like,
there's be times
I'll get emotional and I'll be like, Haseeb, mate,
like, he'll be going through a trough, I'll be going through a peak, I'll be going through a trough, he'll be going through a peak, and we balance each other out.
But I think if we didn't have that, I think to myself,
if
like,
you're there by yourself,
would have chucked the towel in maybe, and
Yes.
and
I think it's easier if you're by yourself to talk yourself into cowardice, into cowardly decisions. I don't say that as a bad thing, but I mean, if you're on your own, you go, look, I gave it a good go and we did well, we did X, Y and Z, we had a good run at it, and we can just stop. But you'll both feel the same way. I don't feel responsible for Matt, but at the same time I feel responsible for Matt. If I fuck up, it's both of us that suffer. If he fucks up, it's both of us that suffer. So when I'm going for a bad time, Matt, maybe he's going for a bad time as well, and he'll say, no, you know what, he'll remind me why we're on this path, and the same vice versa. So like if he's going for a bad issue, maybe I'm in that tranquil place, I'm zen. I go, right, well, this thing's bad, but what's the alternative, and look at where we're at, it's really difficult when this is all you see is what's in front of you all the time. And it's hard to abstract yourself from that a little bit and look at a little bit further afield.
I mean, if you think about it, how lucky we are, though. I mean, they say that you've got like 3 places in your life. First place is your home, and second place is your office, and the people that you spend the time with in your business. We get the opportunity where we've gotten to pick that person. Like I picked Nana picked me, accepted that was going to be the case. It wasn't like a formal marriage license, but we pretty much signed up for it when we got the limited company together. And the same for you two. So you've both made this decision, and it is kind of a little bit like that in a sense, like what they talk about when they describe what marriage is that no, Nana isn't perfect, and I'm definitely not perfect, and no, almost I absolutely perfect. Do. I'm almost perfect. And things like that are they never get tiring. Hearing that, it's just glorious. But we both do things that irritate each other. But it's more important that the relationship is good, and that we help each other through those things than it is to blame or be. See, as soon as you start to go like, I could do this without you. Or you start to think like that, then you're not the right partnership for each other, and there's plenty of companies that you see that are like that.
I'll eat some humble pie tonight and say, like, a few years ago I can be quite righteous, like, this is the way, this is what we got to do, but it's a lesson learned. Like, eventually I'm like, what, 2 of you, you got to realise and drop it and sort of go, what.
You said it earlier, like when you recognise that you're not perfect and that you're not sure of like, you obviously have your skills and things that you're good at, but you recognise the things that you're not good at, and see, to have a bit of humility about that, it's so liberating. Oh God, do you see when people ask me, how do you do X, and I say, I don't know. I just feel this weight of like, it's almost orgasmic to me. Like really, like so. Like, it was especially when we changed our service and we honed in on what we do, and someone said, "How do you do a marketing strategy?" And I said, "I don't fucking know," and I just walked away. I was like, "Don't know. It's not what I do." But I think you need to internalize that. Like, there's no point in us both. For you two, like, if you don't know something, that's the most powerful thing, because you can both go and try and find out, and then you can give each other that knowledge. If Matt goes, "I know how to do this is fucking pish easy," and then we go down that path and it's wrong because he doesn't know how to do it, it doesn't serve either of us. And I think if you can recognise it in each other, that's the most powerful thing.
And for me, it was like, even if you think something's the bee's knees, be willing to accept that it's not, especially when it comes from your business partner, you know, and they're like, "Look, mate, that's shit," you know, and you're just like, "You know what, you're right." That is, and I think that's a big thing for anybody, especially partnership businesses. You know, really drop your sort of ego.
No, it is. Ego is a cancerous thing. It's an absolute nightmare. If you can accept your insecurities and become humble in the person that you are, without sounding too much like a self-help book, right? If you can accept your insecurities and accept what you know and what you don't know, which I think is a big thing when you do this, because when I first started with Nana, when we both first started this, my God, you couldn't have told me that I was wrong. There was absolutely no way you could have told me that I was wrong. I was right. People were going to buy websites from us, and they were going to pay the monies. and they not only were they going to pay the monies, it didn't really matter how good they were, because we were the best. That was me when we started this, and learning that was full of shit. I didn't know that. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea about anything that I was doing. I didn't even know the thing that I thought I knew how to sell as well as I thought I knew about it. I wasn't as good as I thought I was, and that was extremely humbling. But I see it all the time when I meet somebody who's got a job or somebody who's got another business and they're not doing well because they try and big dick me. See, you get it all the time. Who actually uses that ringtone? Is that real?
Do you know what happened? His smartphone screen smashed, so he's went to old school Nokia, the 21st century of 3330s. Remember that bad boy?
Yeah, really, the new one.
But it's got a colour screen. Here it is.
Classic.
Show it for the camera.
Show me that.
Was it 3310? The 3310, wasn't it?
I think it's 3310.
3310, that's it.
Well, there's old ringtones.
Oh man,
And Colour Snake, let's not forget.
bring back some memories.
That's nice.
Is it indestructible?
What happened when you hit that guy that said MyFlag was shit with it?
Sorry, what were you saying?
We're still living.
Yeah,
No, I was just saying that you see it all the time.
When people try to big dick me, like, they try and tell me how much, like, all the important and good shit that they've done, and you're like, why are you telling me this? Like, what's the value of you telling me how great you are? Because you realise that that's just something that somebody does when they're insecure about what they're doing. You know, it's like a guy posturing. It's like, "I've got such big muscles," and you're like, "Okay, I can see you've got big muscles. So why are you telling me?" Like, I see, like, that sort of insecurity. You have to get rid of it, otherwise it's going to just weigh you down. Or accept, at least you need to accept that you've got it.
Do you know, we just recently went through that sort of, you know, we were thinking everybody's going to buy this flag, or we're right, or this and that, and do you know what, like, last few weeks we've ate some humble pie and been like, what we think isn't necessarily just because we think it's right, or we think, you know, and just looking at yourself in the mirror going, do you know what, you fucked up, that was wrong. And do you know what, you feel so much better, and the best part is you make progress.
See, I think we've luckily we've encountered some people in business that are like, you just don't understand how they're so bulletproof.
Yeah.
You know, things are fucking crumbling behind them, and you're like, yeah, things are great. And it's not the same as what Matt's saying, where they're trying to big dick you, where they're trying to make out like they're something that they're not.
Yeah.
They've just got used to that chaos. Like, they're so comfortable with that. Like, something that, like, I won't name the person per se, but something happened to one of our clients, and they were just so unfazed by it. So it just rolled off their back, and I was just awestruck by how calm and composed they were in a situation that would have made me shit my pants.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to be.
Yeah.
You just need to always be focused on the thing that matters, not the thing that doesn't matter, because things are, as you said, things are going to go wrong.
If you're constantly being kicked in the nuts, you eventually stop feeling it, right?
Exactly.
Like a monk, like a ninja monk.
It's sedated, completely sedated.
And that's quite a nice place to be. I'm not sure what happens next. Maybe in a year's time we'll do this again and we'll have a chat, and it will be the total opposite of it.
But that sedation, that getting to that point of sedation, that point of being through the
comfort and chaos.
The comfort and chaos. Is that not a common trait amongst like your most successful entrepreneurs? You know, Richard Branson comes to mind. It was his 10th venture.
Yeah.
Before and okay, that's the first one that comes to mind. But I think that's a common theme, isn't it? And it's comes back to that thing we spoke about, embracing the negativity,
Yeah,
the failure.
because when normal people come across chaos, they panic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not thinking rationally.
Yep.
But if you're comfortable in chaos, then you can think rationally.
Exactly.
And that's the key.
That's the key.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Like if a lion jumps out of the bushes and we go,
Yeah.
this is an interesting creature. Whereas most people shit their pants and start running.
Yeah.
Can't make a decision. That's
Yeah.
another thing.
Yeah.
Lion jumps out, they can't decide what to do. They just stand there.
Yeah.
Whereas we were like, that's a lion. That's probably going to fuck me up. Should probably move. Yeah.
Indecision is a weapon of mass destruction.
Gentlemen, it's been 3 hours of pure insightful delight and pleasure and knowledge, and I think that anyone that watches this or listens to this is going to get a lot from it.
Yeah.
But do you have anything that you'd like to leave them with? Generally, we would ask, is there something that inspired you to where you are, or are there any books or podcasts or videos that you've watched recently, or people that you'd like to shout out? So,
can I just add one note before we get to that? Just a single note, which was we were speaking about IP earlier on. Just a quick. And you know, when we think of IP, we think of patents only. I just want to say it's, you know, we spoke about this a wee bit, getting it out there. It doesn't have to be the patent, but also you spoke about design rights and trademarks. I just want to say that's also as important. You know, a lot of people think just a patent, but it could be you've got a great design, or it could be a trademark or brand equity. And I just wanted to put in there that can be just as important as protecting an idea.
Yeah.
You know, because that. Technically, brand equity represents you, your vision, and it's just a way of formatting that, if you will. So just thought I'd chuck that in there before we.
And I also like to add to that, and we can finish on that. Is don't be afraid of people copying you.
Yes.
If you've got a new idea and you're coming into the marketplace, or if you see an idea and you think you can do it better, and there's only one of it, then go for it.
Yep.
Because it's a big marketplace out there, and everyone's got their own perspective, and everyone's got their own way of they can tweak it and optimize it and make it their own.
Yeah.
And for us, if someone was to copy MyFlag tomorrow,
go for it.
We would celebrate.
Go for it.
We would be chinking the glasses tomorrow. We'd be
I'll drink to that. I'll go out and
because it validates the idea,
and
it pushes the awareness of it.
Yeah.
So don't be too strung up on IP and protection and monopolizing the market, because that's not the way society and civilization and technology is going to progress.
No. And we're speaking from a hardware perspective or a software, but I think we can apply that in any business, you know. So I agree with the Haseeb. The crux of the message is, you know, don't be afraid, embrace negativity, put yourself out there, and go for it.
You can do it.
Just go for it, you know.
Place to leave it.
Yeah.
Gentlemen,
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Pleasure. I really enjoyed that.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
And we'll
champion your product wherever we can find it. So
Brilliant.
myflag.store, myflag.co.uk.
Our Instagram, if you want to follow us, it's my.flag. Unfortunately, somebody's took my flag. But yeah, find us, follow us. You'll see this, so anywhere you see this logo, that's us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.